Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is Neo Yondaime Hokage in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 26, The Churyunin Exam. 2 weeks later, Naruto was heading to the building where the first part of the Churyunin exam was to be held. He soon came to see Team 7, making their way in American Samoa well. Sai turned to see Naruto making his way towards them. "Naruto-san," Sai greeted. Sasuke and Sakura both turned to see Naruto walking up to them. "I'm surprised you were allowed to take part of this exam this early in your training, Dobe," Sasuke remarked. "You should talk," Naruto replied with a smirk. "Why Kakashi isn't allowed you to be here is beyond me. If I recall, I'm the one who had to save and rescue both you and Sai from a girl you the great Uchiha couldn't beat." Sasuke was seething bloodlust at Naruto, but the blonde ignored it and walked past him. Quite frankly, Naruto was getting fed up with being insulted and called Dobe repeatedly by Sasuke. Sakura wanted to run up and clobber and punch Naruto in the face, but instead she said in Sasuke's defense, "That Haku girl just got lucky that time. If anything, Sasuke-kun could have taken her." Naruto simply shrugged as he continued on his way into the building. "By the way," Sai inquired, "is Haku-san taking part of this exam?" "No," Naruto replied. "Kaa-chan figured that she'd be of better use as a medic nin and Shizune Nichan's assistant." "But you're not part of a 3-genin cell team," Sakura pointed out, "and yet you were allowed to take part of this exam." "I'll tell it like I told so many others," Naruto retorted as he stopped to turn and looked back at the others. "Don't underestimate me." Saying nothing more, Naruto went into the building with Team 7 following close by. They walked up the flight of stairs until they got to the second floor. Upon arriving though, they saw a crowd outside a room with the number 301. Suddenly a boy wearing a green spandex with a bowl haircut and very large eyebrows was knocked by 2 older boys standing in front of the door, guarding it. "And you're going to take the Churyunin exam?" "Pathetic," one of the boys said. "Appreciate the fact that we're doing this. The Churyunin exam is extremely hard. You weaklings would just be slaughtered," the second said. "Let us in, you stupid jerks. We're here for the first part of the Churyunin exam," yelled a familiar-looking girl wearing a pink shirt and having her brown hair in 2 buns on her head that Naruto recognized as Tenten. Naruto saw Tenten holding Lee after he was knocked down by the older shinobi. It was surprising to Naruto because of what he knew about Rock Lee and his Jounin instructor Mato Guy. Lee is holding back a great deal against those two, Naruto noticed as he, Sasuke, and Sakura approached the group. Even those among the Churyunin ranks would have been bested by him with his speed, strength, and knowledge on taijutsu combat. "Give up. The Churyunin exam is way too difficult for any of you. Even we failed 3 times, the second older boy guarding the door said. "Have you any idea how many like you we've seen killed or injured for life by this exam?" the first one asked. "A Churyunin is a team captain. Both the safety of the team and the success of the mission all depend on the captain. And you're trying to become that? Spare us the nonsense," the second one said. Naruto looked at Sakura, who snorted at the 2 older shinobis. "What's your problem, punk?" said the other shinobi standing next to the one who struck down Lee in the beginning of the brawl. "Quit wasting our time," Naruto said with annoyance as he stepped forward towards the 2 boys, "and step the hell out of our way. Also, you're preventing us from heading to the 3rd floor to take the exam, seeing that this is the 2nd floor. Several people wondered what Naruto was talking about. "Your pathetic excuse of a genjutsu that any simpleton shinobi could see is up over the door," Sasuke cut in. "Sakura, you saw through the genjutsu, I'm sure, right?" Sakura nodded in agreement, though she didn't go outright to insult the older, more experienced shinobis in front of them as Naruto and Sasuke did. Though Naruto wasn't as strong in genjutsu as his mother or Kurane, however, he had a measure of knowledge about them based on what he learned from Tsunade. The sign shifted and revealed 201. "So, you both saw it. But that isn't enough," the first kid said and moved to kick Sasuke and Naruto. Sasuke responded by moving to kick back, but Lee moved in between and stopped their kicks with his bare hands. Impressively fast, Naruto thought. "Oi," Niji said, walking up to Lee. "It was your idea that we hide our strength. And you go and do this," Niji scolded, and Naruto noticed that the bruises Lee had were gone. Lee looked at Sakura and blushed. Tenten shook her head. "Oh no," Tenten muttered as Lee walked up to Sakura, a faint blush on his cheeks. My name is Rock Lee. You're Sakura-chan, right? He asked. Sakura nodded and Lee struck a pose known as the good guy pose. His right thumb up and brilliant teeth glinting with a shink sound to go along with it. You're an angel. How about you go out with me? I'll protect you until I die, Lee said. Sakura's face showed horror as Naruto snickered before he noticed that the two trouble-making boys were gone. Naruto and Team 7 turned to leave when Niji spoke up, You, what's your name? Sasuke, who stood nearby thought he was being addressed, spoke up, It's customary to give your name first on introductions. Niji looked at him before giving a barely audible snort. A rookie? How old are you? Niji inquired. I see no reason to answer that, Sasuke replied. Naruto rolled his eyes at Sasuke and Niji. The two biggest egos, Naruto mentally snorted, Sandaime-ji-san should have spent a measure of time and energy humbling those two. How Hina-chan was never taken in by the Hyuga's arrogance had to have been by divine intervention. Naruto then walked and went on his way before the others in the crowd followed after him. As Naruto and the others entered the designated room, they came to see that there are a large number of competition this year from different villages and their own. Genins from both major and minor villages were all over the room. I call challenging the strongest ones here to give me a good fight, said Naruto earning a few stares from some of ninjas in the room. Hey Naruto, said Shikamaru as Koji and Ino made their appearance behind him, nice way to make an entrance. You can be so troublesome at times. Whatever, Naruto retorted as Ino went over and hugged him affectionately. It's great to see that you made it Naruto-kun, Ino said gleefully. Was there any doubt Ino-chan? Naruto replied as the girl released him of her hug. None at all, Ino smiled. Just then Hinata, Kiba, and Shino made the scene. Hey you guys, Naruto said as she looked over at Team 8, glad to see that you three made it here also. Like we'd let you have all the fun, Kiba remarked conceitedly, we didn't come all this way for nothing you know. We'll kick everyone's ass. I admit that I'm surprised that you were admitted into the exam seeing that you're not part of a three-man Genin Cell division. You're not the first to mention that Kiba, Naruto replied, but you need not worry about me. I'll manage just fine. Whatever, Kiba said before changing the subject, but on another note. Kiba went over to Naruto and asked hopefully, is there any chance you can put a good word in for me with that Haku girl seeing how you are more familiar with her than I am? You see, I'd like to impress her by dash. Kiba, Shino spoke seriously, we're here for the Churyunin exam, not to help you get a date. Who asked you? Kiba retorted before turned back to Naruto, only to see that he was no longer in front of him. What the dash? Kiba said as he turned to see Naruto speaking with Hinata momentarily. Kiba snorted at them with annoyance. After giving Hinata some verbal motivational boosts, he was rewarded with her blushing heavily with a near faint that followed. Luckily, she was able to control herself from fainting in front of everyone. Naruto then looked around the room and soon spotted Gaara. The Tsunejin hierarchy went over to Naruto until they were face to face. Naruto saw that the red-haired ninja's eyes looked a lot less sleep-deprived. However, to prevent anyone else from noticing and suspecting anything, black eye makeup was applied around Gaara's eyes to make them look as though he was still an insomniac. From what Naruto was told from Temari and Kankuro, Gaara slept in for days, enjoying every moment of sleep he's been thirsting for. Naruto, Gaara greeted with a voice that carried the same cold demeanor as before. Sabaku no Gaara, Naruto replied with a calm demeanor, knowing that Gaara was putting on a pretense so as to not alert anyone of anything wrong. Kiba, Sasuke, and the other rookie 9 saw the tension between Naruto and Gaara. Sasuke sensed that there was something strong about Gaara though he couldn't put his finger on it. Hey, Sakura said, you're that same Tsunenin Naruto and I saw a few weeks back. So what of it, said a haughty feminine voice belonging to Temari as she and Kankuro stepped beside Gaara. If I recall, Naruto spoke, you said that you three are here for the Churyunin exam. That's right, Temari replied before smiling at Naruto flirtatiously, I trust that we'll be seeing you very soon, Naruto. Temari smiled and winked at Naruto, an act that did not go unnoticed by either Hinata or Ino as they sneered and shot glares at the older girl. Shikamaru, who noticed this said, girls and their flirting, it's so troublesome. Oh shut up will you, Kiba retorted, since I've known you, everything with you is always troublesome. You there. Quiet down a bit will ya, spoke voice catching all 9 rookies' attention as they turned to the source of the voice, only to see the form of a young man with white hair wearing purple clothes and glasses. You all are attracting too much trouble in this area and I would prefer not be made a target just yet. And just whom might you be, Four Eyes? Asked Sai as he or anyone else for that matter had never seen that kid before despite him having a leaf headband on. You guys must be this year's rookies. I'm Kabuto. Take a look around, Kabuto advised and the Konoha rookies did. There were scowling and downright unfriendly faces all around. Those behind you are from Omegakure, Hidden Rain. They are famous for their short tempers. If you aren't careful, they might kill you, Kabuto said, but I can't blame any of you. This is your first time and all. How about I give you guys a few pointers? Sasuke frowned. Kabuto-san, Sakura asked, is this your second try? Actually, this is my 7th, 2 exams in the year, so this is my 4th year, Kabuto replied. So you know a lot about this exam, Kiba asked. I do, Kabuto said and pulled out a stock of cards. I have collected all I know on the exam into these special info cards that I created. They are blank until I pump my chakra into one of them, making the information visible. Kabuto crouched down. He laid a card on the ground, making it swirl and in a poof the blank surface was replaced with a map. This is the map of the Shinobi lands, and which villages that have sent how many teams. I have information on them all, although on the team from Oto I don't know much. New village and first time in the exam and all, Kabuto said. Do you have information on each person? Sasuke asked and Kabuto nodded. I have data on everybody, therefore I can uncover just about anything about a person in regards to their shinobi history. Is there someone you are looking for? He asked. Yes, give me whatever information you have on Rock Lee from Konoha and Senju Uzumaki Naruto from Konoha, Sasuke said with a want to know just about everything he could on those opponents. Everyone but Naruto stared at Sasuke. He wants to know how strong I really am. The almighty Sasuke isn't so sure of himself, Naruto thought and Kyuubi snickered. You know their names? That makes it easier, said Kabuto as he took out a card from the deck and spun it around on the ground with his chakra. This ought to be interesting, thought Niji, in hopes that he could find out more about the special genin and then use it against Hinata later in some way or other. First up is Rock Lee, Kabuto started. He is 1 year older than you. His mission history is 20D rank and 11C rank. He has no talent for either ninjutsu or genjutsu, however his taijutsu has developed extremely this last year. He was praised as a skilled genin, and this is his first time taking this exam. His teammates are Tenten and Hyuganiji. His Jounin sensei is Meito Gai. Sasuke nodded as Kabuto took out the next card. This one better be Naruto's, thought Sasuke and Niji simultaneously, as they were becoming slightly impatient. This Kabuto fellow is trouble, Naruto thought calmly. I agree, Minato spoke. And last, but not least we have one Senju Uzumaki Naruto, said Kabuto as he spun the card and lifted it up to read the information. Sasuke and Niji both waited for Kabuto to speak and give them as much information on Naruto as he could. Kabuto muttered while scratching the back of his head in bewilderment, I can't read this. You're refusing to give me the information I asked for, Sasuke narrowed his eyes at Kabuto. It's not that, Kabuto corrected, the data on this card is completely encrypted. It won't tell me anything I seek to know on Naruto besides his name and age. It doesn't even reveal who his Jounin sensei is. Sasuke scowled on hearing that. Of all the people Sasuke wanted information on, Naruto was the greatest one. Everyone looked at Naruto questionably on hearing what Kabuto said. Naruto though remained neutral and calm as if unaffected by what Kabuto said of him. Useless, Sasuke spat before walking away from Kabuto, who was looking at Naruto questionably. I should have gotten more information about this kid, Kabuto thought, especially if the rumors about him are true. His information being encrypted only confirms the fact that there's a lot more to this genin than he lets on. Anyone who takes the Chunin exam 7 times straight isn't doing so for the enjoyment of it, Naruto thought as he cautiously eyed the believed spy in their midst. The blonde shinobi was suddenly aware of someone heading towards them at a high speed. He also felt that whatever it was wasn't headed for him, but Kabuto. 3 genins from the Otagaku were rushed at Kabuto. One of them, a man covered in bandages and with something furry on his back, took a swing at Kabuto, who dodged. But after the punch passed, Kabuto fell down, his glasses broke and he vomited. What the hell was that sound, Naruto thought, rubbing his hurting ears. Some sort of sound attack. You heard it because of your advanced hearing, Kuwabai said. Just then an explosion erupted in the front of the classroom and a lot of Chiryunins stood there. In front of the Chiryunins a tall man wearing a black trench coat stood. His face was covered in scars. Shut up. Damn brats, the man shouted, sorry for the wait. I'm Marino Ibiki and I will be your examiner for the first exam. Ibiki emitted a bit of bloodlust that made several genins gulp. Ibiki then pointed at the 3 from Oto. You 3 from Oto. No more trouble or I'll throw you out myself, Ibiki said. The one who had taken a swung at Kabuto mumbled an apology and a lame excuse. This might as well be a good opportunity to say this, there will be fighting in this exam, however not without the consent of the examiners. Any other fighting and you fail right away. Trash that disobeys the rules will get thrown right out, Ibiki said before holding up a numbered paper. Each team is to approach one of the examiners and get registered. Then you take a number and get to the seat your number represent. Then we hand out the written test, Ibiki explained, and a huge scramble came after those words. After a couple of moments. Now that everyone has taken a seat so I can explain the rules. Don't turn your tests over yet, and listen. No questions are allowed, Ibiki said and started to write on the blackboard. Rule 1, you have 10 points to begin with. The written test has 10 questions. For each wrongly answered question, you lose 1 point. If you have all correct then you keep your 10 points. If you have 3 wrong, then you have 7 points, Ibiki explained. Rule 2, this is a team test, which means we will be checking every team for their overall score. Your passing this exam is decided on the performance of the team as a whole. A genin jumped up and shouted out, what? How are we supposed to work in teams? Shut up. Who gave you permission to ask? Ibiki snapped. Sorry, the genin said and sat down. Rule 3, cheating or anything that can be counted as cheating is forbidden and will result in 2- points each time you are caught, Ibiki said, and remember, we see everything. One of the Chiryunins, now positioned in chairs around the room now said. In other words, Ibiki continued, if you cheat, you can lose all your points, and get thrown straight out. You're supposed to become Chiryunin. Act like ninjas. Those that cheat without thinking will only be digging their own graves. Last rule, if someone on the team loses all his or her points, then the whole team fails. No matter how the teammates do, Ibiki said in a chorus of what sounded through the room. Hold up, Sasuke interjected before pointing to Naruto, you said that this is a team test. But the dobe here isn't in any team. Well maggot, Ibiki said, since you're so concerned about the boy, for this part of the exam, he gets to be on your team. His failure will result in your team's failure and disqualification. That isn't fair, Sakura yelled. Thank your teammate for that, Ibiki retorted. Sasuke scowled at the predicament he unintentionally placed both himself and his team in. Sai however maintained a neutral expression through the whole ordeal, fully confident in Naruto's abilities. Naruto stayed quiet before looking at Sasuke, who gave him a look that seemed to say, fail and I'll kill you. Naruto simply grinned at the raven-haired genin without saying anything to him. Naruto-kun, good luck, came a feminine voice. Naruto turned to his right and saw Hinata. Good luck to you too, Hina-chan, Naruto replied, and Hinata smiled at him. Their attention was brought back to the front by Ibiki's booming voice. You have 1 hour. Begin, Ibiki yelled, and everyone turned their test over. Naruto looked over the exam and after a while he realized that the purpose of the exam was to cheat and not get caught in the process. 16 minutes later, an enlightened Naruto sat back in his seat. Thanks father, Naruto thought. Don't mention it, Minato replied, though you could have done the exam on your own I'm sure. Naruto decided to try and see how others were cheating. He noticed that Sasuke was using his Sharingan, and he figured that Hinata was using her Byakugan. Naruto also noted that during the hour that went by a lot of teams had been failed and dismissed out of the room. I wonder how Hina-chan and Ino-chan are doing, Naruto wondered. Have some faith in your future mates, Kit, Kyuubi snickered darkly. I doubt they want to look bad in front of you as their alpha male. Damare yo. Kitsune baka, Naruto mentally snorted as a light blush appeared on his cheeks. Ibiki was looking at Naruto with interest. He had seen how calm the blonde was, and then suddenly he started to write down the answers, and now several emotions flew across his face: happiness, curiosity, embarrassment, and annoyance. I wonder, is he in contact with the Kyuubi? Ibiki asked himself, and when he saw Naruto blush suddenly and glare at his right hand, he was sure. Ibiki was one of the few trusted special jounins who are aware of Naruto having Kyuubi sealed away inside him. He was also aware that Naruto is the son of Yondaime. He can talk to it. I'm sure Anko is aware of this. Anyway, now that the trash is kicked out, we can proceed, Ibiki thought, and cleared his throat. Now it's time for the 10th question, Ibiki said, but was cut off by Kankuro, who came back from the toilet with one of the examiners. Just in time. Now that you are finished playing with your dolls, perhaps we can continue, Ibiki said, and Kankuro was shocked. He knew about Karasuo, Kankuro thought, referring to his puppet disguised as the examiner behind him. Kankuro walked down the rows towards his desk. Alright, now before I can give you the 10th question, there are some additional rules, Ibiki said. First you have to choose if you are going to take the question or not. What happens if we don't take it? One of the genins asked. Your points will be reduced to 0 and you'll fail along with your team, Ibiki replied simply. What's that for a dumb rule? Of course we will take it then, someone else shouted out. However, if you take it, and get it wrong, you'll be banned from the Chiryunin exam forever, Ibiki said, and the room fell quiet. That is until Kiba shot up, that's bull. There are people here that have taken the exam before. You're unlucky. Now choose. Wait until next year, or risk never taking it again at all, Ibiki said, emitting a faint bloodlust, enough to emphasize his threat. Murmurs filled the room. One by one, genins gave up and left. Naruto inwardly sighed before taking a glance at Hinata. She didn't look very confident, and Naruto decided to help her. Come on. Give us the stupid question already, Naruto said loudly. Ibiki looked at him, trying to see if he was serious. You realize that if you get this wrong, you'll never become Chiryunin? Ibiki asked. I'll risk that, Naruto replied, his voice filled with confidence, and then some. You don't scare me. I'll do what I must to fulfill my goals, consequences be damned. So give us the damn question, Okariti. And with just that, the fear and uncertainty in the room was gradually dying down. Ibiki however tried again. You sure? After this, it won't be any turning back, Ibiki asked, but Naruto didn't reply. Ibiki sighed. With a single statement that kid completely wiped out everyone's fear. Just like his father, anyway it's useless to wait anymore, Ibiki thought before shaking his head. Everyone in this room, passes. Deafening silence. What? A not-so-silent question from all of the genins in the room. What about the 10th question? One of the genins asked. There was no 10th question. Or you can say the take or don't take choice was the question. It was an impossible problem. Take it or not. Live or die. You could say that choice was the whole point of this test, Ibiki said. What? But what was the point to those other questions then? Tamari asked. They served their purpose, Ibiki explained. They weeded out those that are trash with no perception of information gathering. I'll say it again, you're here to become Chiryunins. A Chiryunin has to be able to get information. As you have noticed, the questions are difficult. To answer them, most of you had to cheat. Therefore we planted 2 Chiryunins who knew the answers to the questions. They were to be targets for the rest of the room. Those that cheated without regards for themselves or their teammates were kicked out. If you find wrong information on a mission, then your teammates and village will be the ones to pay. But what about that 10th question? Another genin asked. Suppose you become Chiryunin. You will be sent in on missions with little or no information on enemy forces. Should you choose not to take the mission because of the uncertain factors involved? The answer is no. When you get a mission, you have to complete it, or the village will be into an unfortunate situation. We are shinobis, and we're sworn to protect our village. Those that believe that there will always be a next year don't deserve to become Chiryunins. But those still in this room demonstrated that you are willing to place your lives on the line. That's precisely what ninjas do every day. Congratulations on passing, and good luck in the next exams. As Ibiki finished his explanation, he, Naruto and the more skilled genins felt something flying towards one of the windows. Please, Naruto begged, I hope it's not who I think it is. A black ball flew through the window, sending shards of glass flying. The ball twisted and two kunao shot out of it into the ceiling, revolving the ball into a banner hiding Ibiki from view. In front of the banner stood a woman wearing a brown trench coat, shin guards, fishnet clothes, and a very small dull orange mini skirt. She had purple hair and pupil-less grays. The banner read, "The second examiner, Mitarashi Anko." Crud, Naruto frowned. This isn't a time to be celebrating. I'm the second examiner, Mitarashi Anko, Anko yelled, pumping an arm into the air. Just my luck, Naruto thought. He recalled that 2 weeks earlier she ate him out of his pockets with more dangos, bean soup, and sake than he was willing to pay for. The restaurant owner thought that Naruto was out of his mind treating Anko to a free meal knowing that she'd take full advantage of it. Everyone else stared at the strange, and loud, examiner also known as Anko. Ibiki's eyebrows twitched. Read the mood, Ibiki said, and Anko's mood deflated. She counted the remaining people and turned to Ibiki. 27 teams, Anko said sounding upset, you let 79 people pass? The first test must have been too soft. There were a lot of excellent ones this year, Ibiki replied. No matter. By the end of the second exam, I'll cut them in half. Turning to the genins, ask your senseis for directions to the next testing ground and be there tomorrow morning at 9. That's it. Dismissed, Anko shouted, and the genins cheered. The Konoha genins though knew that Anko was Naruto's Jounin instructor. Though they didn't voice it among the others, they thought that Naruto had an unfair advantage with his Jounin being the proctor of the second exam. The next day, all of the remaining teams made their way to the Forest of Death, feeling rather apprehensive at the name choice. Naruto walked over to where the other rookies from Konoha stood. Then in a puff of smoke, Anko appeared in front of the forest. She, and the examiners already there looked around and made sure all the teams were there. When they were sure, Anko started speaking, welcome to the Forest of Death. Soon you'll learn why it's called that. Naruto snorted with disinterest, whatever. Just get this on with it already and quit wasting time. Anko smiled at him before whipping out a kunao and throwing it at him, aiming to nick his cheek. Naruto stood there motionlessly and unfazed as the kunao ever slightly grazed his face before landing into the ground. He was about to thrust an elbow into Anko's gut as she had appeared behind him. But she just managed to catch the elbow before grabbing and holding him to her. I really like you, Anko said as she started licking his cheek that now had a small cut on it. Your type always dies first and leave behind that fresh delicious blood trail. The Konoha genins looked at the pair questionably as Anko continued licking his cheek a couple more times. They heard things about Anko's characteristics from their respective Jounin senseis after they learned that Naruto was paired with her. Ino and Hinata however wanted to go and strangle the older woman for what she was doing after remembering an incident that involved both her and their love interest back at the Dango shop several months ago, but they knew that attacking the special Jounin wouldn't end in their favor. Damn, Kiba muttered under his breath with a touch of lechery, what I'd give to have that kind of attention and treatment. This statement was rewarded with a hard smack to the back of his head in courtesy of Shino. OOW, Kiba cried while rubbing the back of his head. Do keep such thoughts to yourself, Shino scolded before receiving a glare from the Inyazuka. Get off me, Naruto ordered, you'll find that my blood is both toxic and potent to those who cross me the wrong way. Anko brought her face closer to his ear and whispered, knock it off. You're ruining the dread I'm trying to instill in these weaklings. Whatever, Naruto retorted. I have something special planned for you, Anko whispered as she licked his cheek one last time before she disappeared and reappeared next to a booth where two of the other examiners sat. This portion of the exam is a field exam. All of you will be inside this forest for 5 days, Anko started but was interrupted by a distressed Chuji as he asked, what? What about food? Hunt, Anko answered, the forest is full of food. This'll be a breeze, Naruto thought, hunting for food was something Erojisan taught me. And facing off against these rookie genins for survival won't be much of a challenge to me. As I was saying, all of you will be staying in the forest. Getting these scrolls your objective, Anko said and held up 2 scrolls, one of them brown and with the kanji for earth on it, and one white with the kanji for heaven. Each team gets one of these, and you're to get the opposite from an opposing team. By any means, Anko said and held up a bunch of papers. These are release forms. Sign them, and exchange them for the scroll in this booth, Anko said and started passing out the forms. You have 20 minutes to consider whether or not you'll risk your lives here and sign the forms. Then come one team at a time. So, Naruto stated as a matter of fact, killing is allowed in this part of the exam. It won't be my first time though I should try not to end more lives than I already have. Sasuke and Sakura glared at him while Sai looked at him with a neutral expression. The other Konoha genins looked at Naruto again as they wondered when exactly did he do what he said he did and how many he killed already. I'm sure you know, Sakura scolded, that the rest of us haven't killed yet. It won't be as easy for us as it will be for you. In truth, Sakura wasn't really into the killing part seeing that she was more book smart than she was action wise. Just sign the forms and get your scroll, Naruto retorted. The genins went to sign the forms and get their scrolls. After Naruto signed the form and got a heaven scroll, Anko pulled Naruto to the side. She smiled menacingly and said, like I said, something different has been planned for you. Naruto didn't like the look on her face. He sensed that whatever it was that was planned for him was anything but what he'll enjoy. Naruto's attention soon was drawn elsewhere, in particular, to the female genin from Kusagaku, Hidden Grass. Something about that genin sent a vibe through the blonde shinobi that didn't sit well with him. After a couple of moments, all of the genin teams had their respective scrolls. Finally, everyone have their scrolls. Now, let me explain the terrain and goal of this exam, Anko said before unrolling a chart showing the Forest of Death. Training Area 44, best known as the Forest of Death, was surrounded by high fences with warning signs and do not enter signs. The trees of the forest itself were huge, and very dark. All of which Naruto already knew about. The fence around the forest has 44 gates, Anko shouted as she explained, in which you will pass through. In the center of the forest, about 6 miles from the gates, there is a tower. All of you must make your way there within 5 days with both scrolls. You have been each assigned a gate number. Go to your assigned gate and wait for it to open. That will be the start of the second exam. The genins hurried to their gates. Naruto however was held back by Anko. Before long the genins were allowed through the gates and into the infamous forest. After all of the genins were gone, Naruto was left with Anko. Anko-chan, Naruto asked, why wasn't I allowed into the forest? You're already familiar with those sectors of the forest, you already know where the tower is and you're a lot stronger than most know, Anko answered, therefore you'd have an unfair advantage over the others, as would any other team if you were paired with them. You're in a team of your own. Besides, I have a more interesting sector of the forest to place you in, a sector that very few know exist. And what sector would that be? Naruto inquired. Anko grinned a particular sinister smile at him, which surprisingly sent a cold chill down his back. 3 days later. It's been 3 days since Naruto was forced to journey through this side of the Forest of Death on his own, a sector that was nicknamed No Return. True to her word, that was a section of the forest that Anko never showed him before. His assigned objective was to survive and find his way to the tower on his own after he recovered the Earth Scroll that Anko hid somewhere in the sector of the forest she placed him in. From what Anko explained, most Jounins and even some of the Umbu wouldn't dare enter that secret sector of the forest. During the days Naruto was in Sector No Return, Naruto wasn't 10 minutes into the forest when he was ambushed by massive and deadly insect creatures and human-sized tarantulas and other abnormally larger mammalian and reptilian predators. It wasn't that Naruto didn't know about these creatures in the forest however, it was the fact that those in this sector were deadlier, and harder to fight and kill. His time in the forest was a constant fight and he barely had 5 hours of sleep before he was up and engaged in another fight with creatures that were stronger than Ankolet on that were trying to make a meal out of him. On top of this, he had to make sure that his heaven scroll wasn't lost or destroyed by any of the creatures he had to fight, otherwise he'd be instantly disqualified from the Churyunin exam. It was fortunate for Naruto that he had been trained by Tsunade and Shizune almost all his life in medic and healing jutsus, or he'd be in a much worse shape than he had been placed into after many of his battles. Also, during his 3 days in that sector, he hadn't seen another human being in sight. That damn Anko-chan, Naruto swore, that woman is such a freaking sadist. I could just wring her neck. Quit your infernal bitching, Kit, Kyuubi growled, and do something useful like finding the earth scroll your Anko-chan hid somewhere in this pitiful forest. We can discuss the preparations for her burial later. Oh, shut up, Naruto retorted before he continued on his way through the forest. For the next few hours, Naruto made his way through the forest, and surprisingly he wasn't ambushed by any of the creatures in the forest. Strangely enough, the atmosphere around Naruto was quite unsettling. 15 minutes later, Naruto's eyes saw something from a distance. When he got closer, his eyes widened on what he was seeing. Team 8 and Team 10 were lying on the ground unconscious and heavily beaten and bleeding. The wounds and injuries around their bodies proved to have been the works of a high Jounin level ninja. Hina-chan! Ino-chan! Naruto cried out as he ran over to the 6 of them. Just a mere second upon reaching them, however, a large spinning spike-covered boulder came crashing into him with brutal force, sending him flying into one of the trees before puffing out of existence with the rock mace deeply lodged into the large tree. Shit, the female Jounin cursed, Hokage Bushin. You never know when to quit, Naruto said as he stepped out of the shadows and into the opening in front of where Ryota was standing. I still have a score to settle with you for humiliating me, Ryota said as she retracted her boulder-sized rock chain mace back to her. Team 8 and Team 10 dissolved into small rocks, revealing themselves to be Tsuka Bushins, Earth clones. Both Naruto and Ryota stared at each other wordlessly. For the next few minutes, nothing was said between them, as though they were waiting for the other to attack first. Senju Uzumaki Naruto, Ryota spoke, breaking the silence, son of the famous medic specialist, miracle healer, and slug Sunin, Senju Tsunade, the now Yondaime Hokage. You live with both Tsunade and your Shizune Nichan. I do, so what of it? Naruto retorted. I find that you live an interesting life, son of Yondaime, Ryota grinned, or should I refer to you by your true name, Namikaze Naruto, son of Yondaime? Naruto's eyes widened on hearing that. Your father was none other than Namikaze Minato, known as Konoha's Yellow Flash, Ryota continued, the very person who also sealed the Kyuubi no Kitsune into your body, thus turning you, his own flesh and blood child, into a Jinchuriki, just as Yondaime Hokage did with his own son. Quite the irony, really. How much do you know? Naruto asked cautiously. Enough, Ryota remarked. I owe it to the stories both you and your Jounin instructor Anko shared with each other. They were really something. It helped to answer a lot of questions I had about you and why others who faced you suffered dearly. If that's the case, Naruto retorted, do the smart thing and leave me alone, and remember to never mention what you learned to anyone. I didn't report this revelation to my village just yet, Ryota said. They would have sent a massive army against you if they have found out who you really are before I had my shot to prove which one of us is stronger. I want the pleasure of bringing back the last legacy and only son of Yondaime for myself. Your last victory over me will not be my reputation's undoing. Ryota dispelled the mace boulder before she pulled out a particular object that Naruto had been looking for the last 3 days. Recognize this, Ryota said, I believe this is the Earth Scroll you've been looking for. Ironic, don't you think, that you had go through so much trouble to retrieve an Earth Scroll only to have it found in the hands of an IWA Jounin like myself? I came across it the other day. You can have it and your freedom if you can defeat me. As ambitious and arrogant as ever, Naruto spoke, you're a bother. Naruto had to be cautious with her. Over the past days, he used a large amount of chakra battling the creatures in the forest and healing himself with medic jutsus. He noticed that Ryota didn't have a single scratch on her body, nor were her clothes and gear damaged in any way. I'm sure she entered this forest from the same direction I came in, Naruto contemplated. Coming from the directions the other genins entered the forest through would have resulted in her losing time finding me when I'm alone and noticeably weakened from my previous battles. My question though is how she was able to be here and not have a single injury or scratch on her. Surely she had to battle against the creatures in this forest before finding me. How about we skip the warm UPS and go straight to the good stuff, Ryota said. I held back in our last encounters but I don't intend on doing that this time. I say that we raise the stakes to higher levels. After saying that, she speedily went through a series of complex hand seals. A moment later, the ground shook violently. Cookios, Ryota said before a yellowish-brown glowing kanji for living earth appeared underneath her. Reibutsuki no yoyoi, live earth armor, she said before a beam of light burst forth from underneath her, completely concealing her from sight. What is this jutsu? Naruto asked to no one in particular. I think we're about to find out, Minato said. After a couple of moments, the beams gradually died out to reveal Ryota in what looks like body armor made of carved smooth marble rocks and gems. She had gem-covered marble rock armors on her forearms, her legs from the kneecaps down, breasts, at the sides of her waist and a helmet that looked like a tiara. She grinned at the blonde as she studied his shocked expression. What do you think of my jutsu, son of Yondaime? Ryota said confidently, it's my own specialty. These armors increase my strength and durability as I feed chakra into them. The freaks for animals and insects in this dim forest didn't stand a chance against me and neither will you. I have a mission to complete and you will be brought back alive and heavily beaten or in a body bag to be studied by my fellow IWA Jounins. You will be my greatest trophy in triumph, Namikaze Naruto. Ryota started gathering and focusing chakra into her armors while the area around them started shaking and cracking with rock particles and dirt levitating off the ground and into the air. Naruto was about to move when he felt something holding him down. He looked at his feet to see a pair of tentacles made from the ground holding his ankles and feet to the floor. Great, just what I need, Naruto thought sourly before he looked up to see Ryota speedily deliver a mighty strong punch to his face that sent him airborne. Chapter 27, Pride Before a Crash. Somewhere deep in the forest of death. Great, just what I need, Naruto thought before he felt a mighty strong punch to his face, sending him flying a long distance backwards and through several trees, breaking them on contact before crashing into the ground. He didn't have much time to react when an arm made from the ground burst from out the ground and pulled him into the ground. Seconds later, Naruto burst and was sent flying from the ground and into the air before landing down to the floor. Before reaching the ground, Ryota emerged from the ground and delivered a swift swing kick to Naruto's side, sending him on a collision course with another tree. The blonde plummeted down to the ground and onto his face. Appearing in front of him, the girl walked over him and mocked, "This is sad. I thought I was going to be given a challenge." "Yeah, my luck," Naruto said as he staggered back to his feet. "I recall telling a group of ninjas that I call challenging the strongest ones to give me a good fight." "Well, here I am," Ryota mocked, "and you don't have much fight left in you from what I'm seeing." "I'll warn you once," Naruto retorted, "I've faced off and survived against people worse than you. And your arrogance will be your undoing." "You're all talk but no action," Ryota said as the armors on her body started glowing brightly. Moment later Ryota was surrounded by a speeding rotating sphere of what looking at glowing rocks. Ryota then performed a couple of hand seals, which in effect signaled the glowing rocks around her to shut themselves at Naruto. Seeing the rocks coming his way, the blonde shinobi started punching and breaking the rocks to pieces. What Naruto didn't realize was that the rocks he was breaking were sticking to parts of his clothes. By the time he was done, the blonde looked up at the kunoichi who in turn was looking at him calmly. "Nicely done," Ryota said before getting into her fighting stance, "let's rock." "Only your head," Naruto retorted as he charged at him. She in turn charged at him and seconds later, the duo were engaged in a fierce fist fight. Naruto applied his insane strength against the Umbu level Iwa Kunoichi level who was able to go on toe with him. True to her word, the armor increased her strength and durability, and from what Naruto was seeing, the amount of damage was inflicting onto the armors didn't last long at all. In fact, the armors would continuously repair itself back to their original glory without so much of a single scratch or blemish being present on them. After another moment, Naruto pulled back to catch his breath. All those attacks and not one of them had any significant effect on her whatsoever, Naruto thought as he looked at Ryota with frustration. Ryota however just looked at him with a cocky smirk on her face. "What's wrong?" Ryota taunted, "Am I took much woman for you?" "Shut up," Naruto spat, "I dealt with people worse than you before." "Blah blah blah," Ryota retorted, "You should know, son of Yondaime, I'm not your common everyday enemy. This armor of mine makes me invincible. No matter what amount of damage you inflict on it, it'll just repair itself with the elements in the ground. And as you can see, we're surrounded by solid ground and earth." Naruto thought for a moment and saw that he was at a distinct disadvantage. Still he maintained his composure and didn't allow the Kuniachi to intimidate him. "Human and Baijuyu alike," Naruto said calmly, "no one's invincible, the enemy is just hard to beat until a stronger and smarter opponent takes them down. Kyuubi's defeat to my father is proof of that." Naruto heard Kyuubi snarled venomously before cursing both Naruto and Yondaime. Yondaime merely chuckled at this. Smiling confidently, she replied, "You're quite the philosopher, son of Yondaime. What got you all happy and smiling at me all of the sudden?" Naruto asked while keeping his guard up. "Naruto-kun," Ryota asked with a touch of mockery with the kun honorific, "how do you enjoy being somebody's toy?" "Where are you getting dash?" Naruto wasn't able to continue when his own fist punched him in the face. "What the fu dash?" Naruto unintentionally punched himself again. "Ah, Ryota scolded mockingly, "watch your language before a lady." "Damn you!" Naruto now punched himself in the gut, hard, sending himself down to his knees while holding his belly and groaning in pain. "I've somehow lost control of my body. When and how did that happen?" The blonde looked at his clothes and sensed chakra moving through the small glowing rock particles that fastened to his clothes. "Damn it," Naruto realized, "it's those rocks she hurled at me. She's channeling chakra through her armor and into those particles on me to control my body movements. I'm practically her living puppet at this moment." "That's exactly where you belong, son of Yondaime," Ryota said haughtily, "before my feet on your knees. By the time I'm through with you, I'll have you beaten, broken, naked and humiliated. I'll turn you into a spectacle for all of Uegakuer to see, so they can all behold your shame." Doing another set of hand seals, the particles on Naruto's clothes resulted in his body being frozen, pulled down to the ground like a magnet. The blonde fought hard to resist the pull, but gravity was evidently against him at this point. He felt like his bones were going to be crushed from the pressure and weight. Feeling heavy, she taunted, "I think you're carrying too much on you. Perhaps you ought to lighten up, don't you think?" "This isn't my day," Naruto thought sourly before Ryota made him grab his vest and tear it apart off him. Meanwhile, teams 7, 8, 9 and 10 were going about their ways through the infamous forest, battling whatever creatures or enemy teams came their way. All four teams, including Gaara's team, wondered where Naruto was, seeing that he wasn't allowed to enter the forest from any of the entrances they were instructed to enter from. Gaara's team managed to get a hold of a Heaven's Scroll after their run-in with 3 Amnins. Gaara made quick works, finishing them off in the most effective and painless way possible. /N, by now, all of you should know that scene in the anime and manga. Team 8, who happened to have eyewitnessed Gaara's method of disposing of the Amnins while in hiding in the bushes, made a break for it, believing that staying around would result in their deaths as well. When Temari questioned Gaara about his method, seeing how Naruto had repaired his seal to suppress Shukaku's influence, Gaara's reply to her was simply, "Old habits die hard." Team 7 was about their way looking for another team's scroll to steal. Like the others, they ran into trouble of their own with an opposing team. Sai and Sasuke made quick work against them, though Sakura wasn't able to do much because of hesitation, which resulted in Sasuke discrediting her harshly, much to her grief. Much later that afternoon, Naruto, who was now stripped of almost all of his clothes, left barefooted, no gloves, shirtless and bare-chested, and with what little is left of his mostly destroyed and ruined pants, was now speedily running and dashing like a blur through the forest. His hair was a mess and covered in dirt, and his body from head to toe had sustained brutal external and muscle injuries, bruises and bleeding cuts from Ryota's vicious assaults. This happened when she grew rock tentacles with sharp miniature razors from the ground and used them to restrain and whip Naruto after she forced him to tear off most of his clothes. She wanted him to plea and give her the satisfaction of begging for mercy and admitting defeat. When he refused, the beatings intensified, with the razor tentacles tearing into his body with every hit. Not seeking to remain as her personal plaything, Naruto tapped into his remaining chakra and with Yondaime-like strength, broke free from her grasp before taking to flight on foot. However, this served little to help him escape from her. With the use of her live earth armor, she was able to pinpoint exactly where he was and intersect him before he could make any large distance between himself and Ryota. This was proven true when a slab wall burst forth from the ground seconds before Naruto crashed hard through it before hitting the ground. This has happened to the blonde shinobi several times so far since his escape from Ryota. "Run, run as fast as you can, Naruto-kun," Ryota's voice taunted through the forest, "you can't hide from me. I'll know exactly where you are and where you're going before you can get anywhere." Despite his many injuries and lack of breath, Naruto took the time to regain his strength. Chidori, Reikari, Naruto thought sourly, what time not to know how to perform and use those jutsus. "Why didn't I learn those jutsus again, father?" "Stop complaining," Minato rebuked, "you're not finished with this fight yet." "Raiden jutsus are effective against Doton jutsus," Naruto retorted, "regrettably I never bothered to learn any Raiden jutsus." "In that case," Minato replied, "adapt to the situation and improvise. I'm sure you can come up with something to use against her. You're not a cage-level shinobi for nothing." "Are you done catching your breath, Naruto-kun?" Ryota's voice taunted, "our game of cat and mouse isn't finished yet." To make her point clear, a tentacle made from gravel burst forth from the ground and grabbed Naruto from by the neck from behind. Naruto struggled against the pull of the tentacle as he tried to pry it off him. "Shit," Naruto cursed, "I'm so low on chakra and most of my strength is gone." A moment later, 4 more tentacles grew from out of the ground and grasped and wrapped around his legs and arms. The tentacles then pulled him and forced him down on both of his knees before pulling him back to face Ryota as she emerged from the ground in front of him with his arms being restrained by the other 2 tentacles. The Iwanin walked over to Naruto with a triumph smile on her face. "Namikaze Naruto," Ryota started, "son of Namikaze Minato, the renowned Yondaime Hokage, Konoha's Yellow Flash, the self-proclaimed Konoha's Second Flash, reduced to kneeling before Ryota, Iwa's Shining Stone." Naruto remained silent while trying to remain calm and keeping his emotions in check. That however was soon put to the test when she suddenly kicked him in his crotch. Naruto groaned and closed his eyes shut tight as he bit down on his tongue to keep from screaming despite the pain. "That was for fingering me before you left me to rot in that damn forest back in Nami no Kuni," she remarked coldly. The blonde managed to swallow his scream and keep his tears from falling while hearing the fox laughing insultingly at his plight. "You're pathetic," Kyuubi mocked darkly, "you're getting your ass owned. You should have killed this bitch when you had the chance after you've beaten her. Now you're ruining day for showing mercy to an egotistical kunoichi who wants nothing more than to break you down for what you're worth." Momentarily ignoring his pain, Naruto retorted, "Kyuubi team, shut the hell up." Kyuubi growled at the boy and chose not to give Naruto his chakra to heal his injuries. "To hell with you Kyuubi team," Naruto spat, "I don't need your damn chakra though I can force you to comply. It's not like you have anywhere else to go besides with me to the grave, servant." This time Kyuubi roared at the Naruto with animosity before thrashing against his cage. Naruto grinned and chuckled outwardly at Kyuubi's reaction to his last words to him. "What's so funny?" Ryota asked, only for Naruto to laugh louder. The girl grinned at the blonde, "So you've finally gone crazy? I must have kicked you so hard that the shock fried your brain. You'll be more of a spectacle for the people of Iwa as I present you before them." A moment later, Naruto calmed his laughter down before regaining his composure. Looking at Ryota, Naruto said, "I'm laughing because I was too blind to realize something that was right in front of me the entire time." "And that would be?" she inquired. He replied, "You're afraid of me?" She blinked and looked at him with a confused expression, "Afraid of you? You really must have lost your mind, kid. You didn't have what it took to fight me when I was in my prime before and after the day I entered this forest," Naruto mocked. "The fact that you waited all this time until I was exhausted, weakened, and vulnerable after spending 3 days in this forest fighting to survive proved that you knew that you couldn't rely on your own powers to fight me. That's why you resorted to summoning an armor of extraordinary powers to use to do battle with me." Naruto saw the angry look on Ryota's now reddened face and saw that he was getting somewhere. He continued, "Tell me Ryota, why didn't you report your findings about me to your Tsuchikage? You found out and knew the truth about me for nearly 3 weeks. But like you said, your Tsuchikage would have dispatched a whole platoon of skilled ninjas and perhaps his Umbu against me. Doesn't that tell you something about both yourself and me? You openly admitted that your Tsuchikage wouldn't have enough faith in your abilities as the Shining Stone of Uegakuer to fulfill your mission to bring me back. That's one of the reasons why you chose not to report your findings to your Tsuchikage. You didn't want to lose face in front of everyone back in IWA that I alone was too much for you and you were in need of assistance in the form of an army to go after one genin. Ryota was now fuming venomously at Naruto, who was grinning at her despite his confinement. In our last battle, I merely used 3 simple jutsus to bring about your downfall and defeat, and it only took less than 2 minutes. You on the other hand had to go through all this trouble just to try to force me to beg you for mercy, just to satisfy your ego, solely to attempt to prove that you're stronger than, how did you put it, me, a fresh out of the academy genin who fingered you before leaving you face down on ground at my feet. Before I was able to finish what started back then, I sensed that my comrades were in danger. Seeing that you weren't much of a threat, no less a challenge to me anymore, I left you where you were, so you could nurse what was left of your wounded pride under the uprooted tree I placed you under. At the Ryota went over and slapped him hard, leaving a red palm print mark on his left cheek. She didn't want to admit to the fact that Naruto's harsh words were getting to her. He saw the fury in her eyes. You're ambitious, arrogant, and full of yourself. As the saying goes, pride is before a crash, Naruto added. I truly pity you, because even now when I'm weakened and in this horrid condition you can't get me to beg you for mercy. She slapped him hard again, thing this on his other cheek. Truth is a bitch, isn't? Naruto cracked with a grin. At that point, Ryota's anger got the better of her. I'll kill you, she yelled as she lunged onto him to strangle him. She was so angry with lost focus that she didn't realize that she unintentionally loosened the grip the tentacles had on Naruto. Taking advantage of the situation, Naruto, with his remaining strength, broke free from his captivity. What? She said before Naruto lunged and tackled her to the ground on her back. Naruto clenched his fist tightly before he delivered a hard and swift punch to her left cheek. That was for kicking me, Naruto said. Ryota felt the painful blow that was given to her face before Naruto grabbed and hurled her high into a tree before hitting the root of the tree and then the ground. Seeing that she was momentarily down, he turned and ran as fast as he could away from her. Damn you, Ryota swore as she got up and rubbed her now bruised cheek and threatened, you're gonna regret that. She started chasing after him, following the vibrations his feet were making as each step he made served to pinpoint exactly where he was. Naruto knew that it wouldn't be long until she caught up to him. Soon his eyes came to see a clearing up ahead. When he got there, however, what he saw was a waterfall with the waters below leading down into a chasm. Seeing no other option, Naruto took a deep breath and jumped into the waterfall, where he was pulled in and swallowed up by the hard-hitting waters. Ryota appeared moments later to see that she lost track of Naruto. Damn him, Ryota yelled before punching a tree hard enough to uproot and knock it down to the ground. Her armor was unable to detect Naruto, seeing that he was no longer touching the ground. Seeing no other option available, Ryota turned and ran to find where the falling river waters going into the chasm would lead. Moments later, Naruto popped out from the waters to see that Ryota was gone. I'm guessing that her armor couldn't sense where I was, I must be outside her element seeing that I'm in the waters, Naruto figured as he remained afloat in the river waters. Naruto analyzed the situation he was in, and presently, going against Ryota in his condition wouldn't be the smartest choice. Right now, he was in need of medical attention, and a lot of it. Presently, he didn't possess anywhere near enough chakra to heal any of his injuries, and Kyuubi refused to lend him any, though Naruto chose not to use it anyway. Only one choice was available. Naruto, Minato said, you're planning on absorbing and using my chakra to fully mend and repair your body, yes? Naruto mentally nodded as he went through a series of complex hand seals. I'm no expert in medic and healing jutsus, Minato added. However, using and absorbing too much of my chakra at one time in your present physical condition might have some side effects, though I'm not sure what they may be. That's a risk I'll have to take, Naruto retorted with his mind clearly made up. When he was done performing the necessary seals, his body started glowing with Minato's chakra pouring out of the seal on his stomach and into his chakra coils before completely engulfing his body, beginning the restoration. The seal containing Yondaime was hidden with a strong genjutsu tsunade designed and made for Naruto and could be modified to blend in with him as he ages and grow. During the healing process, however, something unexpected suddenly happened. Naruto felt pain coursing throughout his entire body inside and out, from every bone, muscle, and organ and skin tissue, as though he was being pulled apart. It felt excruciating. "What's happening to me?" Naruto groaned in great pain before realizing that his body was undergoing a change as Minato's chakra grew stronger and continued reshaping and mending Naruto's body. Back in Konoha, Tsunade had dispatched the Umbu after receiving word that Orochimaru was in the Forest of Death. She didn't know for what purpose he was there, but with everything that's been happening and the invasion that's to happen, she wasn't taking any chances. Later, back in the forest, Naruto, fully healed and revived, swam his way towards to the shore with no clothes over his body. In spite being completely naked and soaked, he felt great and alive, as though he was reborn. Soon his eyes came to see that a large tiger was making its way towards him with bloodlust radiating in its eyes. Naruto grinned at the large cat before picking up his kunai that was washed ashore next to him. After doing that, the tiger jumped at him with the intentions of making a meal out of him. Naruto wrestled with the large predator before overpowering it and effectively slitting its neck with the kunai, killing the tiger. "I'm happy you showed up when you did, kitty," Naruto said with a voice that sounded more grown and mature than his usual voice. Using the kunai, Naruto got to work skinning the dead tiger, wanting to make using of its fur and skin. He knew that what he had in mind was going to take a while. Later, Ryota was down by the mouth of the other end of the chasm and Naruto's body still hasn't shown up yet. "Damn," Ryota muttered, "where is he?" She searched around all over looking for any traces that would lead to where Naruto was. Ryota continued this for some time and was unsuccessful in detecting anything that would pinpoint Naruto's location. At this point she started growing frustrated. She decided to retrace her steps back to where she last saw him. Returning back to where the waterfall, she came across a dead tiger that was stripped and cleaved of most of its skin and fur. From the looks of it, she saw that it had to have been done by a sharp object. She also noted that the tiger's 4 fangs were pulled from out of its mouth and the rest of its body was left to be eaten by the maggots and worms. He was here all along, Ryota realized, from the looks of this tiger has been dead for a while, so he moved on from here some time ago, which he's dash. She stopped when she detected vibrations of feet movements through the ground. With a grin on her face, Ryota took to flight and followed in pursuit. "I'm coming for you, Naruto-kun," she said as she ran in the direction from where she picked up the vibrations. Before long, she spots Naruto as she last saw him running through the woods. "Gotcha," she said as she summoned a boulder and threw it into the blonde, only for it to puff out of existence. "Damn," she growled, "a Kage Bushin." A moment later she picked up movements elsewhere. Heading over to that direction, Ryota came to see Naruto again running away from her after seeing that he was found. He didn't get far when the ground opened up under and closed shut over him, only to puff out of existence as the first one. "Another Kage Bushin," Ryota said with a irritated tone. Soon she started picking up movement from various directions. She wasn't able to tell the real one from the fakes as she attacked and killed off every Kage Bushin she found, one at a time or in pairs. "Where the hell are you?" Ryota yelled in frustration after taking out another clone. She thought she wasn't going to get her answer. "Looking for me," said a voice from above that sounded familiar to the girl, but more grown and confident. Ryota looked up into the trees to see Naruto looking down at her. What she was seeing, however, was anything but what she was expecting. Standing on the tree branch was a newly structured Naruto who was taller than before. He no longer had any of the baby fat on his body or face. Rather, his body was now leaner and muscularly built and pronounced. Though he's still 13, however, his face looked like that of a 15-year-old instead of a 13-year-old boy. Also, Naruto was now wearing the tiger's skin and fur. He used some of skin as underwear while using the rest of the skin and fur as loincloth around his waist. Think of Disney's Tarzan, only it's with tiger fur and skin. Some of the fur and skin was used as a belt to fasten the loincloth around his waist, with the tiger's fangs used to help keep the belt in place. Naruto's 2 kunais were placed at his sides into the loincloth by his waist. His Konoha head protector was still tied around his head and he was still barefooted. Caught off guard by Naruto's new appearance, Ryota had to focus her mind on her objective, though some blood seeped down her nose which she had to immediately wipe away. That guy now looks like a forest ninja version of the Yondaime, Ryota thought. She was about to say something when I assure you that this is no henge if that's what you're thinking, Naruto made clear, I am the real thing. When did this change happen, she asked. Never mind that, Naruto retorted, it's time to fight. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. Naruto summoned an army of 20 solid clones and surrounded the girl. He jumped off the branch and onto the ground. Get her, Naruto ordered his clones. Obeying, the clones charge at the kunoichi to do battle with her. Confident in her own abilities, Ryota performed a couple of hand seals, which in effect signaled the glowing rocks around her to shut themselves at the clones coming at her. During the momentarily distraction. Kuki Yos no Jutsu, Naruto said after biting his thumb and thrusting his bleeding thumb into the ground, summoning a half-human/half-fox humanoid masked woman dressed in ceremonial battle attire. Naruto-sama, the masked fox woman greeted and bowed, what do I owe the honor? Your assistance Tao, Naruto said, this IWA kunoichi has been a thorn at side for some time now. Tao nodded as she jumped into the air and yelled, henge. A burst of smoke surrounded the masked fox woman as she transformed into a red and orange staff with a large blade at the end of the staff. Grabbing the staff, Naruto swung and maneuvered it a couple of times to get a feel for it. By the time he was done, all of his clones were all gone, leaving alone with the IWA Jounin kunoichi, who now turned to him and noticed the staff in his hand. When did he acquire that weapon, she wondered with a perplexed expression before deciding to forget about it. I had just about enough of you, Naruto said. He posed the blade of the staff in her direction. The girl didn't look the least bit intimidated and she smirked, you think that little butter knife will be effective against my power? Naruto started swinging the staff around him in a graceful display almost as if he was dancing with it before facing her again. Let's find out, shall we? He invited. Let's, she said as she started firing her rocks at him, only to see Naruto slice and hack at the rocks with fast and fluid movements, not one of them touching his body. Irritated, she performed another series of hand seals and combined all of the rocks together, forming a stone-carved looking katana with it. Iwa no Tsurugai, rock sword, Ryota said as she grabbed her katana and swung it around. Get a feel for it as Naruto did with his staff. When she was done, both Naruto and Ryota looked at each other, waiting for the other to make the first move as the wind blew past them. After what felt like an eternity, both Naruto and Ryota, with narrowed eyes, dashed and rushed at each other with their selected weapons. Meeting each other, a fierce staff and sword fight commenced between the two shinobis. Clash after clash with their weapons, they struggled to gain dominance over the other and neither looked like they were going to give in to the other. Loud sounds of their weapons clashing against each other repeatedly echoed around their surroundings. From the way they were fighting, one would assume they were dancing with each other, but this was a deadly dance with death between two skill ninjas. Jumping high into the air, the two fighters raced at each other through the air and continued with their battle as they clashed their weapons. Before Naruto could block, Ryota swiftly swung her swords and slashed it across Naruto's left arm, causing a deep gash to result from it. The blonde kicked away from her and landed down on the ground with his now bleed arm gushing blood out of his wound. Ryota landed down gracefully with her blood-stained rock sword in hand. You've put up a good fight, I must admit, the kunoichi said before her expression and voice turned cold, but I think I've played with you long enough. I'm afraid that I have to take you down now. Taking her threat seriously, Naruto rose back up. Kage Bushin no Jutsu, he said as he summoned 7 clones to him, all them bearing a staff like his own. It doesn't matter how many clones you make, Ryota said as went into killer mode, you're still going to die. Sorry, Naruto said, but like I said to you some time before, I plan on living past today. Naruto and his 6 clones charge at the kunoichi. With grace and swift movements, the Iwa Nin did battle with Naruto and his clones. Much to her surprise, the clones proved to be more of a problem than before as they were dealing harder and more effective blows against her. Focusing her chakra into her katana, her weapon started shining brightly in her hands. She then plunged her sword into the ground, surging chakra from the sword and into the ground at Naruto and his clones. A glow appeared underneath Naruto and the clones before stone-carved blades burst from the glow and stabbed Naruto and the clones through their chests and out of their backs. The 6 clones puffed out of existence. Naruto coughed out blood while the stone blade was still deeply embedded into him. Ryota pulled her sword from out of the ground, which into effect caused the blade impaled into Naruto to come out of his chest. The blonde dropped his staff as he fell to his knees and held his bleeding chest. Seeing his weakening state, Ryota walked over to him with her blade in her right hand ready to finish him off. Standing in front of him, she said, "I told you no matter how many clones you make you were still going to die." What happened next caught her off her guard. Naruto started chuckling. Ryota looked at his questionably. "And I told you not to underestimate me," Naruto said before he lunged at her and held onto her tightly. A moment later, Naruto started glowing before he suddenly exploded on her. Ryota was sending flying backwards with crashing into several trees. Weakened and injured, the kunoichi got up and staggered back to her feet. "Shit," she cursed before she came to realize something. "Wait a minute. He created 7 clones, which meant there was 8 of him. But only 6 came at me, and Naruto himself. That would mean that he hid the 8th clone and, the 8th clone was a Deibakuretsu Kage Bushin, exploding shadow clone. He used Kawarami and replaced himself with it just before I used my attack on him. I wasn't expecting that. I'd have possibly died had it not been for my armor." Her clothes under her partly charred armors were now torn in a few places as a result of the explosion on her, but it was nothing serious. With her remaining chakra, she readied herself for another fight as she looked around for Naruto but unsuccessful in finding him. "Where the hell are you?" she said. "Right here," Naruto's voice spoke from behind before he suddenly massaged and groped her lower bottom rear. Infuriated by his perverted gesture, she speedily turned and delivered a hard punch to his face, sending him flying far and crashing into a large tree. "Hentai," Ryota screamed, letting her feminine hatred for perverts take over her despite her blushing face. It was bad enough that Naruto fingered her anally in their second encounter. Now he went and pulled this stunt despite the situation he's in. "You're so going to die." "Just the reaction I was counting on," Naruto said as he created 2 more clones. The clones nodded to him as they started running around him in circles at full speed until they looked like blurs. Ryota wondered what the blonde was up to, not realizing that power was being generated around Naruto. Before long, the 2 clones dispelled, leaving Naruto by himself again, but something was different this time. Naruto was standing before the Umbu level Iwa Kunoichi with a blue self-sustaining human-structured spiraling field of chakra encased around his body form. Naruto eyed the enraged Kunoichi, who then rushed at him. Timing it just right, Naruto teleported away from where he was and reappeared at her left. "What?" she could only say before Naruto yelled and delivering a solid punch delivered to her face with damaging force. Being sent flying to the far right, she looked to see Naruto suddenly appeared in front of her and delivered an unforgiving kneecap hard into her guts with the concentrated spiraling chakra around his body grinding into her, causing major damage. With the breath knocked out of her, Naruto punched and sent her flying again into the air before giving the command to his staff to start gathering chakra into itself and morph into a large paintbrush. His glowing staff-like paintbrush, which was in a reddish-orange-white glow, rushed at her and swiped across her armors, causing glowing seals to appear on the armors. After teleporting to her, Naruto did some fast complex hand seals and said, "Kitsune no Ninpo, Hikari no Mamorai no Jutsu, Fox Ninja Arts, Talisman of Light Technique." The seals spread over the armors before effectively breaking and exploding them off her completely. As she was sent flying again because of the explosion, Naruto, with his spiraling field of chakra still encased around his form, teleported to her end. "Futon, wind release," Naruto said, "Raisin, spiraling." Ryota looked and he punched her hard, causing her to scream in a most painful manner as a beam of bluish-white light was seen momentarily over her form. The brunt of the punch sent her flying downward diagonally to the ground. Suddenly he appeared in front of her and said, "Am I?" Being punched again, she was sent flying backwards diagonally away from Naruto towards the ground. She nearly hit the ground when Naruto appeared out of nowhere again, somersaulted her straight high into the air with a strong kick. As she rocketed into the air, she opened her eyes in time to see and hear. Again Naruto appeared in front of her in the air right before he released his attack on her in the form of a very large spiral sphere that was expanding from his body. The impact on her resulted in a massive explosion in midair, blowing and destroying everything away in its path. Ryota crashed into the ground with brute force, forming a large crater upon her impact. Naruto teleported in front of the crater the kunoichi's body made from her crash landing. Looking into the crater, Naruto, with his staff in his hand after it changed back from a paintbrush, saw the amount of damage his attack did to the Iwa Jounin who was lying in the crater face down. Her long hair was a mess, she was severely battered and bruised all over and bleeding in many places. Her Jounin gear and uniform were heavily damaged and torn in many places and covered in her blood. Weakly, she coughed up and choked painfully on some of her own blood that was coming from her mouth as her gaze looked up and found Naruto standing in front of her. "You," Ryota asked weakly, "how could I have lost to you again?" "You have only yourself to blame," Naruto said with no emotions in his voice. "I warned you that your ambitious arrogance will be your undoing. If you had been truly focused on the job, you might have had a stronger chance in beating me." "Such power," Ryota said before losing consciousness, accepting her fate and soon to be delivered death blow by Naruto's hands. Seeing that she was now unconscious, Naruto went over to her and knelt down to the side of her. He reached over and removed the Shunshin seal he placed her but earlier. "Leave it to the surprising maverick ninja to turn a perverted gesture into a strategic means for attack," Minato said. "Of course," Naruto agreed, "that Reibutsuki no Yoyuri, living earth armor, of hers requires near-perfect chakra control to maintain its function. To disrupt that, I focused on warping and playing with her emotions by attacking her ego and insecurities with manipulative slandering. It was easy really, because she reminded me so much of Sasuke, egotistical, ambitious, and revengeful and with a complex to prove that they're stronger than me through the use of physical power. People like that are easy to manipulate." With her mind and sense of judgment clouded with rage and a wounded ego, I later intentionally groped her without alerting her to the fact that I placed a jutsu marker under her rear, knowing she wouldn't have the capacity to concentrate her chakra efficiently into her armors after I added to her emotional instability. In effect, the strength and durability of her armors were weakened, making her an easy target for everyone to hit. "Pure genius," Minato admitted, "underhanded but absolutely cunning. To be completely honest, I wouldn't have conjured up anything like that." "Keep this up, Kit," Kyuubi snickered darkly, "and you'll be the second coming of Itachi." "Shut up, stupid fox," Naruto shot back, "I don't recall asking for your opinion." The great fox snarled at the blonde. Minato cut in, changing the subject, "Your new attack was most impressive." "Raisin Kamikaze, Spiraling Wind of God," Naruto replied, "that's my new jutsu I've been working on for some time now. I used my two clones to perform and combine the shape and nature manipulations around my entire body. In a sense, I become a human Raiznan, only deadlier and stronger. Asuma-sensei gave me some pointers recently in nature manipulation after I learned he was a wind affinity. However, that jutsu still isn't fully perfected yet." This fact was proven when Naruto fell to his knees in one hand while using his other hand to hold his chest before coughing up a little blood from his mouth. "Holding that jutsu together in its imperfect state places a great deal of stress on my body," Naruto explained while holding his chest, "plus it's still unstable, which is why I sustained some internal damage after performing that jutsu, but it's nothing I can't handle seeing that I didn't use that attack at maximum. Had I done so, well, the damage might have been more extensive." Yondaime nodded in understanding, knowing that there was another part of the Raiznan he wanted to add in as well with his wind affinity. But seeing that he won't be able to accomplish that, he decided that he'll teach it to Naruto in a later time in his life. Naruto allowed his staff to transform back to Tao. The masked fox humanoid woman stood next to Naruto quietly as he began healing himself. "What should be done with her now?" Naruto asked out loud. "Slay her," Tao suggested. "She'll be trouble if we allow her to live or leave freely, especially with what she now knows." Thinking back to what happened between himself and the kunoichi, Naruto started contemplating on what he should do now. After seeing her abilities and intentions, it's clear that she'll come after me again to try to finish what she started, Naruto said. "She did try to kill me, or so it seemed, and would have succeeded in defeating me were she given the opportunity to do so." Naruto stayed quiet while thinking about what should be done with her. Sure, he could kill her and be done with, he knew. But after contemplating on the situation for a couple of more minutes, an idea formulated in his mind. "Tao," Naruto asked. "Yes." "How good are you with seals?" he asked. "That depends on the nature of the seal and its purpose," Tao replied. Naruto said, "I have something I would like for you to do, and something else I would like for you to do some looking into for me if you will." Tao nodded as Naruto detailed to her the favors he wanted her to do for him. 4 hours later, Ryota woke up and found that she wasn't in as much pain as before. She sat up and found that most of her injuries were gone but also that most of her clothes were damaged and ruined, leaving her in her bra and what little was left of her pants that exposed parts of her panties. "Good, you're awake," a voice said. Ryota turned to see Naruto looking down at her with both the earth and heaven scrolls in his hands. She backed up away from him until she was up against a tree. "Relax, I didn't rape or inappropriately touch you in any way," Naruto assured. Not believing his words, especially after he groped her again earlier, she asked cautiously, "What did you do to me?" "I healed most of your injuries, bones, blood vessels, colon, intestine, your right lung and liver, all of which I heavily damaged inside you earlier in my last attack," Naruto explained. "You'd have died within the hour had I not done so." "Why did you spare me when you knew I came here to kill you?" she asked cautiously. "I spared you because I found use for you. I want you to personally deliver a message for me to your Tsuchikage," Naruto answered. "Tell your presiding Tsuchikage not to send any ninjas after me, because I won't be as merciful to them as I was to you just now. Plus, you did say that I can have this earth scroll and my freedom if I defeated you. Seeing that I accomplished that feat, I'll take my leave now with the earth scroll that you've saved me the trouble in finding." Naruto then turned and started walking off away from her. Ryota shouted, "Hey! You shouldn't so trusting and turn your back on me. I can kill you right where you stand." "I took that into consideration while you were unconscious," Naruto said without turning to look at her. "That's why that Kyubiwa-fun, choker seal, was placed around your neck." Seeing a small nearby lake, Ryota ran over to it and looked into the lake to see that Naruto was telling the truth. A Kyubiwa-fun of some sort was around her neck. That particular seal is most complex and very hard to make, even for a seal master. "I wouldn't advise you tampering with that seal or attempting to remove it," Naruto warned. "It's specially designed to respond to a particular chakra. If you or anyone else but me tampers or attempt to remove it, that Kyubiwa-fun will active and strangle you to death." Ryota's eyes widened in disbelief at her situation. She couldn't believe what Naruto did to her, or even how he managed to accomplish it. Angered by the situation, she found and picked up one of her kunais on the ground as she ran after him. "You son of a bitch," she yelled as she grabbed and turned him to face her with her kunai at his throat. "I wouldn't advise you killing me," Naruto warned as he focused chakra into his chest enough to reveal the seal that was placed on his chest exactly over where his heart is. "This seal on my chest was specially designed to respond to my vitals and it's part of the Kyubiwa-fun on your neck and choke you to death. Even if you managed to bring me back to IWA, your safety isn't guaranteed since they'll possibly kill me anyway. In effect, you'll pay the ultimate price by dying with me. Also, that Kyubiwa-fun is designed to prevent you from revealing my secret about my birth father and Kyuubi. It'll choke you death should you make an attempt to reveal my secret without my consent. So what's your choice, your mission or your life?" There was a long silence between them. Naruto stopped channeling chakra into the seal on his chest, making his disappear back into his chest. "Am I really worth you forfeiting your life just to satisfy your mission and ego?" he asked with a calm demeanor. Naruto made no attempt to defend himself as she hesitantly removed the kunai from his neck. She remembered what her Tsuchikage told her about Naruto. Like Naruto, her Tsuchikage warned her not to underestimate him. But she allowed her ambition, pride, and overconfidence to overshadow the warnings given to her. And now she's paying for it in full. Without saying another word, Naruto turned and started walking off, leaving the Iwa Kunoichi to her thoughts in the forest. The Kunoichi wanted to go after him, but her feet wouldn't budge from where she was. She was angry, completely humiliated, and afraid. For the first time in a long time in all her shinobi career she was afraid and didn't know what to do. Overwhelmed by what befell her, she fell to her hands and knees. A moment later, Naruto heard the sounds of sobbing and weeping from behind him. "Please kill me," Ryota cried with tears pouring down her face. Naruto stopped where he was as she continued, "Please, I can't bear the shame of returning back after what happened. I beg you, just end my life." Naruto stayed quiet momentarily before he decided to speak. "I have no need to kill you, humbling you the way I did satisfies me enough as it is. What you choose to do now with your life with its consequences is your choice. Saying what he wanted to say, Naruto turned forward and continued walking away from her with his 2 scrolls and on his way to the tower. Ryota lowered her head as she cried again, almost refusing to believe how accepting the mission to retrieve Naruto had ultimately sealed her fate alongside his should anything fatal befall him. Later that evening, Naruto arrived at the tower. He opened one of the numerous doors and walked in. What greeted him was an empty room with a board on the wall. He read aloud, "A balanced person needs both heaven and earth. If you have heaven, but not earth, run in the fields and gain strength. If you have earth, but not heaven, go to a wise man and seek help. When you have gained them both, use them well." What does that mean? Naruto wondered. Yondaime chose not to answer that for him, wanting Naruto to figure it out for himself. "I have both the heaven and earth scrolls," Naruto said. "I'm taking it that it means that I'm supposed to open them here. It's worth a shot." Naruto opened the scrolls at the simultaneously. Realizing that they were summoning scrolls, he placed them on the floor next each other. A puff of smoke later revealed a smiling Jiraiya, who was caught off guard by Naruto's new physical appearance and clothes but managed to control his surprise. "Excellent work, Neo Yondaime. Congratulations on passing," Jiraiya said. "Arrow-jisan," Naruto exclaimed, "what are you doing here?" "To welcome you, and explain that," Jiraiya said and pointed at the board. "It's a poem that we use to explain, very simply, how you should train. The heaven it refers to is skill and experience. The earth is strength, speed, and stamina. If you have skill, then train your body. If you have strength, then seek help to train your skills." Naruto simply nodded. "Am I one of the first to be here?" "No," Jiraiya answered, "in fact you're the last one here. All of the other teams came before you." "What?" Naruto retorted, "Damn that Anko-chan. Knowing Imo Sasuke, he won't let me hear the end of it. He'll be calling me dead last indefinitely." "Speaking of that spoiled brat," Jiraiya said, "both him and his team ran into a Kusanin earlier today. He was Orochimaru in disguised." Naruto's head shot up on hearing that. "Damn it," Naruto swore, "I knew there was something off about that Kusa-genin when I saw him earlier that day at the entrance gate of this forest. I just couldn't put my finger on it. If I'd have known dash." "It's not your fault, so don't blame yourself, Gaki," Jiraiya assured. "He slipped past all of us without our notice. So we all share the blame in all this." "Why did he attack Sasuke and his team?" Naruto asked. "What was his plan?" "We're not sure yet," Jiraiya said. "Besides planning an invasion against Konoha, we don't know for what purpose he attacked and branded Sasuke with the cursed seal." "You mean the same one that bastard gave Anko-chan?" Naruto asked. "So she told you about it," Jiraiya realized. "I'm surprised really. Her history with Orochimaru isn't something Anko takes pleasure discussing with practically anyone." Grinned, "You must have made quite an impression to move her to tell you about it." "Sure I did," Naruto remarked in sarcasm. "By the way, where's that snake bastard now?" "We don't know," Jiraiya sighed. "He escaped before the Umbu and Anko appeared on the scene. Sasuke was out of control when they came across him. It was clear that the cursed seal was having psychological effects on him. Luckily, they managed to contain him enough to neutralize his instability." "Any casualties?" Naruto asked. "By Orochimaru, beside that Kusa-genin he killed, none," Jiraiya continued. "The only ones who are capable fighting Orochimaru on even grounds are Sarutobi-sensei, Tsunade, you and myself, and I'm sure that Itachi himself can do the same. For anyone else, engaging Orochimaru is suicide." "I see," Naruto remarked. "So until we know something more about Orochimaru's hidden agenda with regards to Sasuke," Jiraiya said, "we have to play things safe and keep things on a down low." "Understand?" Naruto nodded wordlessly. "By the way, Gaki," Jiraiya said, "you can drop the henge. Though I will admit that I'm impressed with the look you gave yourself for this part of the exam. You really got the spirit of a jungle forest ninja." Arrow-jisan," Naruto replied while scratching the back of his head, "there's something you should know." That was when Naruto went into details explaining to Jiraiya everything that happened in the no-return sector before arriving at the tower. Jiraiya listened to Naruto's every word as the boy was allowed to speak. Thought it went without say that Jiraiya was stupefied at what Naruto explained to him in regards to his physical change. However, Jiraiya laughed and applauded lecherously upon hearing how Naruto groped Ryota as a distraction before placing his jutsu marker under her rear. And when he explained his previous encounters with her and how he performed Kakashi's 1000 years of pain jutsu on her in their second encounter, Jiraiya told Naruto that he couldn't be more proud of the fact that he found use of being a pervert as an attack strategy. Getting back to the main subject, Naruto continued with the story because Jiraiya continued teasing him. After hearing everything from Naruto, the aged Sannin stayed quiet as he processed the entire story. When he was done gather his thoughts. If this story was told by anyone else, Jiraiya admitted, I might not have believed it. Leaving that Iwa Kunoichi to live despite begging you to end her life, I'd figure you'd have brought her in for questioning. There was no point in doing that, and her freedom wasn't without a price, Naruto replied. We both know how much Iwagakure despises my father, and we already know they'd have dissected me to see what secrets they could learn about me and use against Konoha. I doubt Ryota will attempt revealing my secret to anyone, especially after I told her what would happen if she does. Confident in your seals, I see, Jiraiya remarked with his arms crossed over his chest. I had good teachers, Naruto replied, causing Jiraiya to sigh at him. You're taking a very huge gamble, Naruto. It's evident that Tsunadeheim molded you in her image, but you're taking her gambling influences into territory even she'd dread to tread. Look, Naruto retorted, sooner or later I'm going to have to face off against stronger enemies who'll want to end my life because of whose son I am or for some other reason, and I'll have to deal with my enemies in the best way I see fit. You, Ji-san and Kaa-chan won't always be there to protect me. What happened in the sector of no return is proof of that. Sighing, Jiraiya retorted, Naruto, I'm very well aware of that fact. All I'm saying is for you to be careful and not do something you'd regret later. Don't worry, Arojisen, Naruto reassured with a confident smile, things often have ways of bouncing back in my favor. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just like Minato when I trained him during his genin days, Jiraiya sighed, hard-headed and stubborn. And having him sealed inside you only makes you twice as bad. Naruto snorted, as did Yondaime. They were expecting Jiraiya to say something positive about the both of them. A moment later the older man went over to examine Naruto's body. After a thorough examination on the boy's body, the Toad Sannin acknowledged the situation Naruto was in. Minato was right when he said that side effects might result from using too much of his chakra at one time to heal and restore your body, Jiraiya said. I would have never expected that doing so would cause your body to irreversibly age by nearly 2 years. Irreversibly? Naruto asked with a surprised tone, you mean I'm stuck like this? I'm afraid so, Jiraiya confirmed, as you know since the night of your birth after Yondaime was sealed into you, you've been absorbing his chakra in a gradual process. Since then, your body has been undergoing some changes physically and mentally, with Tsunadeheim and I there to monitor and control the changes, and watch for any irregularities. By using and absorbing that large a quantity of his chakra all at once to heal yourself, your body was forced to adapt and change in order to accept and infuse that amount of Yondaime's chakra into your system without causing damage to your body. In doing so, your physiology was restructured and mended to Yondaime's likeness. To say that you'll stand out in the crowd would be an understatement. What might have happened if I'd have used Kyuubi's chakra? Naruto inquired. Though your body would have healed completely, however, Jiraiya explained, there's no telling exactly what side effects, dire or not, that Kyuubi's chakra might have had on you altogether. I highly doubt though that it'd be something any would want to see or experience. Naruto was quiet for a moment. And until the 5th day, you're to stay in this tower. I would suggest getting plenty of rest for the remainder of the time. There is a bedroom for you, and I'll leave you to find the rest yourself. See you later. Hey, Naruto said, is it possible to bring me some change of clothes? I thought you were taught proper manners, Jiraiya retorted, you didn't say please. Annoyed, Naruto said, can you please bring me back some change of clothes? After a moment. I think not, Jiraiya smirked. What? Naruto exclaimed. Jiraiya grinned lecherously, I wanna see the look on all of the females' faces when they get a look at the new you. It'll provide me plenty of new raw materials to use and work with for my next greatest seller of my Ika Ika Paradise series. Jiraiya waved and puffed into a cloud of smoke. Arojisen. Chapter 28, The Preliminaries. 3 days later. The genins who had managed to get both scrolls and made it to the tower stood in front of the two Hokages, the examiners and their Jounin senseis. Jiraiya, Shizuan, and Haku also stood with Tsunade and Sarutobi. Behind the higher ninjas stood a statue of two arms holding the Ram seal. The genins stood in an arena and along the walls there was a heightened floor for spectators. The Konoha rookies were there as well as Gaara and his siblings. Kiba smiled happily upon seeing Haku present among Jiraiya and the Hokages. All but one genin was present, one elite genin to be precise. Naruto-kun isn't here, Hinata noted very worriedly. I hope nothing terrible happened to him. The forest of death was truly deadly and he was forced to go into a whole other section of that forest alone. I know, Ino spoke up feeling equally worried. None of us have seen or heard from Naruto since the time we entered the forest and even now we have no idea what's become of him. Naruto-san was more familiar with that forest than any of us here. Sai spoke with a neutral voice. I must admit that I'm surprised that he's not present amongst us. I heard that the section Naruto was placed in was far deadlier than where we went, Sakura said. I found it hard to believe at first, but seeing that Naruto isn't here with us only proves that right. Sasuke interjected. If the dobe was half as smart as he says he was, he'd have never went into that section of the forest on his own. The loser and dead last should have dropped out when he had the chance. We can't say that he's not responsible for his own undoing. Hinata and Ino snarled venomously at the Uchiha. Temari and Kankuro, though they tried to look indifferent, wanted to go up and clobber Sasuke. They didn't appreciate the fact that Sasuke was ridiculing someone who did what no other person was willing to do for Gaara. Neji was thinking that Naruto's situation could be an instrument he could use against Hinata. While all of the genins were into their own thoughts, a particular aura was making its way towards them. Soon everyone in the building was sensing the aura approaching them. A moment later, everyone turned towards the entrance to see a barefooted figure reaching the height of Jiraiya's shoulders with tan skin with nothing but tiger skin loincloth around his waist and what looked like short black tights approaching and entering the building. His face was looking down to the ground as he continued making his entrance and his lengthened stringy and partly spiked blonde hair was pointing down to the ground. What was also noteworthy was that this well-built and nicely toned figure was wearing a Konoha head protector over his head. All of the genins, including the three from Oto, were wondering just whom was this person and why was he dressed like some character from an adventure book. They don't even recognize me, the figure though in surprise as he continued entering the build over towards the genins. Hinata was trying to stay neutral, thinking to herself that the older teen figure entering the building doesn't measure to her love interest, though she detected something about the guy that felt strangely familiar. Ino was trying to do likewise, but was having a bit of difficulty in completely doing so since, like Hinata, she sensed something familiar about him. Shizuan, though calm and reserved, couldn't help but admire the guy's nicely toned and pronounced build with the bit of power radiating off him. Like Hinata and Ino, though, she sensed some form of familiarity towards the blonde stranger. Anko was visibly salivating and gawking at the sight of the supposed jungle ninja with a trickle of blood coming down her nose. If anything, the sight of this stranger was going to fuel her wet dreams and fantasies for weeks. I can think of a whole world of possibilities of what I can do with that guy with that super body, Anko thought lecherously. I would definitely love to cut and lick him all over. Kurane, though more conservative than Anko evidently, couldn't help but wonder who the entering stranger was. The genjutsu mistress shook her head with a sigh of dismay upon looking at Anko's unprofessional demeanor. Tsunade was dumbfounded and stupefied at the sight, immediately recognizing who the stranger is. She was told about this from Jiraiya, but she herself found it hard to believe, especially since he told her about it a few hours ago without informing her that the stranger was in tiger skin loincloth and that his body underwent this kind of drastic change. For what it was worth, she wanted to go over to the older boy and strangle him for coming before her in everyone's sight the way he was. Sandaime dropped his pipe from his mouth as, like Tsunade, he immediately recognized that aura the stranger was radiating. Jiraiya was giggling lecherously in the far corner after moving there a few moments ago. He was scribbling away giddily and recording everyone's reactions. He didn't seriously think that the teenage cage-level shinobi would actually go through with what he wanted him to do. If anything, Jiraiya's respects for the blonde grew to higher levels. Kakashi looked up from his orange book and recognized the aura the stranger was pouring out. He knew only person who could produce such an aura. Ibiki, Hate, Asuma, and Guy sensed the same aura, and saw that what they were feeling from that aura was a presence they haven't felt since Namikaze Minato. The boys looked on at the entering figure with curiosity and perplexity. They sensed something recognizable about the older teenager, however his appearance radiated a power they haven't felt before, and though they didn't admit it, part of them were intimidated by it, whereas another part of them desired to challenge that power. Sasuke and Neji especially wanted to challenge that power solely to prove their own superiority. Shikamaru just found the presence of the blonde stranger troublesome. Sakura, though blushing from the sight of the stranger, was hearing inner Sakura yelling fits about how Sasuke's body and build would be more sight to see in those tiger skin loincloths than the wannabe putting on a show in front of everyone. Tenten had a look of curiosity with a small smile on her face while wondering just how strong the mysterious supposed jungle forest-raised ninja was. She wondered what kind of weapons was he capable of using, or if all of his fighting styles are done through his bare hands in close ranges like Guy and Lee. Gaara just had a look of indifference, not caring either way. He don't look so tough, he's such a show-off, Kankuro thought to himself. Temari, though reserved and calm, looked at the stranger with interest and a noticeable grin on her face, though she had no idea who this guy was. However, he looks strong and capable, Temari acknowledged, and cute too. I wonder if I could get that guy into leaving Konoha for Suna. He'd make quite a shinobi in our ranks. I wonder if his affinity is wind type, that would be extra pluses in my book. He's noticeably skilled, the female Oto Genin acknowledged while analyzing the figure. I wouldn't mind challenging him to a fight to test out my own abilities against his. Kabuto looked at the teen in question. Impossible. This can't be the same Genin I saw a few days ago. His power is even stronger and potent than before. And just who are you? Sasuke interrogated. I don't recall seeing you from around here. With a grin, the stranger replied, I've only been away for 5 days and none of you recognize me? I'm hurt. Though the voice sounded more mature, they immediately recognized who this stranger was. Sasuke's eyes widened on the realization, as did everyone else's. Nar, Naruto-kun, Hinata stuttered for the first time in a long time. Naruto just grinned his trademark smile, none other. This was uncalled for. Naruto, Kiba barked indignantly, you can stop the charade and drop the damn henge already. Naruto flashed a grin again, I'm afraid that's not possible. What everyone here is looking at is the real thing. Kiba was about to say something when Kiba, Hinata interjected between stutters with her Byakugan activated and a crimson blush on her face, believe or not, that is no henge. What we're looking at, is the real Naruto-kun. What? Kiba yelled in disbelief. Neji, wanting to see for himself, activated his Byakugan and scanned Naruto's body. A few moments later. Both Naruto-sama and Hinata-sama are telling the truth, Neji confirmed, though finding the truth himself hard to believe. This is Naruto-sama with no deception to his appearance. Everyone but Jiraiya looked at this in shock. With the exceptions of the Sandaime, Godaime, and Jiraiya, no one had any idea what happened to Naruto in the Forest of Death that caused such a drastic transformation. Meanwhile, oh my god, Shizune thought as a realization dawned on her. You mean to say that was Naruto Otauto I was? Shizune, who was totally shocked by this revelation, turned and ran from the chamber and into a different room from feelings of embarrassment and shame. The boys were looking at Naruto in absolute disbelief. Anko, after speedily fixing herself during the momentary distraction, was tempted to personally check for herself if what she was looking at was truly Naruto in the flesh. Although she wanted to do her own physical on him, however, her sense of reasoning kicked in and successfully managed to keep her impulses at bay, especially since she didn't want to invoke Tsunade's wrath. What shocked her more was the realization that she was having perverted fantasies of him which were still fresh in her mind. The purple-haired special Jounin was definitely going to get answers out of him, one way or another. Naruto saw the look in everyone's faces, and needless to say he couldn't help but take amusement at their expressions. The Genins couldn't believe that Naruto had undergone such a huge change in such a relatively short time and that he was now taller than all of them. Shikamaru tried not to act too surprised, feeling that doing do would be too troublesome for him. Shino had both eyebrows raised upon realizing that the stranger before him was none other than Naruto. He figured that there had to be some form of logic explanation for the transformation Naruto underwent, although he presently couldn't think of one. Kiba and Chuji, who stopped eating his chips and nearly dropped his bag of chips in fact upon seeing Naruto, both looked at Naruto with stupefied expressions. The boys always knew that Naruto was unique in his own way, but they never suspected that something that what they was looking at could ever happen to the blonde. Lee was contemplating on how the fires of Naruto's youth and hard work resulted in Naruto's unexpected transformation. Tenten looked at Naruto with a cherry blush and surprised expression. She couldn't believe that the boy she tried to be in good grace with in hopes that someday he'd talk his mother into training her, had transformed into the hot-looking ninja she was looking at. Though she tried to think up of some explanation for his new appearance, however, her mind was too busy focusing on his nicely restructured body and face. Sakura was in denial. She couldn't believe how handsome and built Naruto became while trying desperately to convince herself that Naruto's new appearance still doesn't measure up to Sasuke's. In spite of this though, she wondered exactly what happened to Naruto in the forest that triggered this seemingly unexplainable transformation. Sai was still neutral, though he had a curious look in his eyes. Sasuke and Neji though were scowling and seething at the sight. Both boys, like all the other genins, wondered exactly what triggered Naruto's surprising change and increase of power. Sasuke was angered hotly at the fact that Naruto was getting stronger faster than he was and possessed power that he wanted for himself to use against Itachi and prove his superiority to Naruto. Neji wondered if fate had deemed Naruto's future for power and advancement beyond many others. Hinata and Ino were both blushing and gawking at Naruto. Ino was visibly drooling at his appearance with a trickle of blood coming down her nose. It took all of her willpower not to run and jump on him just so she could feel him up. Hinata had to release her Byakugan for fear that she'd be tempted to use it to see more than she was supposed to, not that she haven't before on several occasions, which resulted in both her blood loss and loss of consciousness. Haku looked at Naruto in surprise. She didn't know what to make out of what she was looking at. She had always known Naruto was a strong and capable ninja and person, especially since she's heard many things about him before she got to meet him. But for him to undergo such a drastic change in such a short time was unheard of to her. Gaara remained calm, reserved and indifferent in spite of his curiosity. Kankuro looked at Naruto with a dumbfounded expression. Sure, the Sunanin knew the boy was powerful and not to be underestimated, but never once he thought that what he was seeing was possible. Temari, though surprised like all the other females, looked at Naruto with an admiring smile on her face. She couldn't find words to explain how Naruto had gone from being a 13-year-old shinobi to every girl's fantasy. Though the Suna Kunoichi maintained a partial reserved demeanor, however, she couldn't deny the fact that not only was Naruto now taller than her and the others, she found him surprisingly handsome and appealing in form. The genins from Oto looked at Naruto questionably and suspiciously. Like their leader Orochimaru, the three Otonins have heard many rumors about the son of Gundam, the self-proclaimed second Flash. If anything, Orochimaru tried to keep tabs on Naruto ever since he heard about the blonde's surprising victory over Itachi, a shinobi he himself couldn't defeat. Unfortunately for the Snake Sunin, there wasn't much head on Naruto, and he was sure that Tsunade was effective in keeping an eye out on her son. All of the other Jounins looked at Naruto with shocked and surprised expressions. Like many, they wondered what exactly happened to him while he was alone in the forest during the 5 days. Jiraiya was having a field day taking notes with his pen and notepad, recording everyone's, especially the females' reactions to Naruto's new appearance. He was planning on using all of the materials he was gathering for what he was planning on making his latest and rarest Ika Ika Paradise, Jungle Forest Ninja Platinum Edition. I'm happy I found those pair of short black tights yesterday, Naruto thought to himself. My ass is the last thing I'd want to put on display in front of everyone. What the hell happened to you? Kiba asked after a long period of silence. Puberty, Naruto replied in sarcasm. Kiba remarked, if I'd have known that you'd have returned looking like that after being placed wherever you were in that damn forest, I'd have gone there a long time ago. More like died there a long time, Naruto refuted. What happened to me in that forest is not an experience I want to go through again. I came close to death many times in that damnable sector of the forest I was placed in. Yet you're still alive, Shikamaru interjected with a bored demeanor, so don't complain so much about it please, because it'll just be troublesome. Put a sock in it, Shikamaru, Naruto retorted with an annoyed tone. Naruto-kun, Lee spoke up eagerly, we're all curious to know as to how you were able to advance so fast in just 5 days alone in the forest of death. Naruto, Sasuke said with a serious demeanor, tell me exactly what happened that triggered your transformation. If I can find out how Naruto managed to age and become this strong in such a relatively short time, I can use that to greatly improve in my training and become stronger. My transformation is something that can't be repeated by anyone, Naruto replied, it's unique only to me and unfortunately, it's irreversible. Sasuke wasn't satisfied with that explanation. Tsunade and Hiruzen hurriedly went over to Naruto and examined him. Tsunade was surprised that Naruto could now look at her face to face without having to look up at her anymore. Jiraiya did explain that Minato's chakra influence was potent on the boy as a result of the concentrated amount that the boy infused into himself. Hiruzen thought, but I would have never thought in all my years that Yondaime's chakra would have had this great an impact on the boy's physiology. I can't believe this happened, Tsunade thought. At first I found Jiraiya's words hard to believe, but now that I'm seeing it for myself, there's no way to refute it. Naruto, Tsunade said after regaining her voice, it's hard to believe that you've aged like this. It's nothing to worry about, Naruto assured. Nothing to worry about, Tsunade retorted indignantly, you just lost 2 years of your life and you have the nerve to say it's nothing to worry about. Naruto sighed, listen, nothing we do can change what happened to me, like it or not. We're just going to have to make adjustments to the situation. You could have at least found some decent clothes to put on before coming here, Tsunade stated. Naruto replied, I could have but didn't. Since my original clothes were destroyed, like a trained ninja I improvised with whatever resources I found in the forest. After making it to the tower, I did ask Arojisen for some change of clothes but he refused to grant my request. Jiraiya gulped fearfully on hearing that. He was about to interject when he wanted everyone to see that what I went through in that forest alone was a most cruel and challenging ordeal, Naruto explained, and that I wasn't given special treatment just because of whose son I am. It was a harsh reality but I accepted it. Tsunade wanted to say something but she couldn't find the right words to say. Jiraiya sighed in relief after hearing Naruto's explanation. At first, after hearing himself being mentioned, Jiraiya feared that Naruto was going to blow his spot and explain that he refused to give him new clothes because he wanted to exploit Naruto's situation for new ideas for his next bestseller of Ika Ika Paradise. After hearing Naruto's reasons for his actions, the Toad Sunin couldn't help but admire the boy's boldness. Hiruzen and Tsunade saw how Naruto was maturing, and for Tsunade, it was too fast for her liking. Sandaime remained quiet as he took another puff of his pipe. He, Tsunade, Jiraiya and the others all knew that Naruto was going to be bombarded with a series of many questions once the rest of the villagers behold his age appearance, and the fact that some of Minato's features were manifesting in Naruto's appearance wasn't going to help matters either, Sandaime realized. As much as I'd like to stand here and discussion Naruto's new looks, Tsunade, Hiruzen interjected seeking to pull away attention from Naruto, I believe that we have other important matters to take care of in regards to the remaining genins here in this building. Reluctantly Tsunade agreed with her former sensei's advice, yes you're right. We'll deal with this matter at a later time. Hiruzen nodded as he and Tsunade returned back to their original positions. Naruto went over to the remaining genins. While walking past Sai, Naruto looked down at the reserved genin who gave him a small nod as though they were silently communicating with each other. Sasuke and Sakura caught this but they didn't know what to make out it, so they chose to ignore it, for now anyway. Looking at Sakura, Naruto took notice that her pink hair was now shortened in neck length. Without saying a word, the blonde continued on his way. Reaching his destination, Naruto went and stood between teams 8 and 10. Hiruzen gave Anko a look that told her to refocus everyone's attention to what was the original objective of being present inside the building they were in. She nodded in understanding. Welcome and congratulations on passing the second exam, Anko said, and stepped back as Sandaime prepared to speak. All of the genins turned to face the aged Hokage. Let me explain to you the true purpose of this test, Hiruzen said. True purpose? Kiba asked. Hiruzen nodded and continued, this exam, the Chiryunin exam, is to show of a village's power to potential customers. If a village shows it has lots of talented and strong ninjas, then missions will increase for that village. Also, instead of killing each other, the ninja villages compete under these exams, keeping relations and allies, as well as showing off their power to enemies, keeping them from attacking. Likewise, if a village's representatives, the genins in this exam, show that it is weaker, missions will decrease and the threat of invasion is greater. Therefore it is very important that you take these exams very seriously. The next stage will be one-on-one fighting where daimyos and other important people will come to see you fight. The selection on who becomes Chiryunin is made by several judges among those important people. A special jounin then jumped in front of Hiruzen, kneeling in front of him. Sandaime-sama, allow me to explain, the special jounin named Gecko Hayate requested before Sarutobi nodded to him. As Sandaime-sama said, for the third exam, there will be a lot of important people watching and the invitations are to be sent out. But since these important guests have limited time, we can't simply have many matches. That is why we must have a preliminary now. But before we begin, can those that don't feel well and want to give up, raise their hands? As it is individual, fighting from now on, your decision won't affect your team. So, anyone wish to retire from the exam? We will begin fighting immediately, so you won't have time to rest. Hayate said, and a murmur arose from the genins. Naruto saw that Shikamaru was about to raise his hand when Kabuto did. I give up, Kabuto said. You are Konoha's Yakushi Kabuto? Very well. You may leave, Hayate said and wrote something down on the clipboard he was carrying. Kabuto left and once again Shikamaru was about to raise his hand when. I also give up, Sai said with his hand raised, surprising Sakura more so than Sasuke. Sure, she and Sai didn't get along, but she was aware of his abilities as a genin and for him to suddenly quit after their ordeals in the Forest of Death didn't add up. Naruto however was fully aware about why Sai was forfeiting. You know what to do, Sai, Naruto thought as he watched Sai make his way out of the building. I hope that you don't fail. Shikamaru was about to raise his hand again when Ino shot him a glare. Reluctantly he complied and lowered his hand, not wanting to deal with Ino yelling at him later for quitting because of his laziness. What should we do about the Uchiha? Anko asked. Both she and Hiruzen could see something was bothering Sasuke, confirming Orochimaru did something to him. Hokage-sama, Anko started, I can practically taste Orochimaru's cursed seal on Sasuke and he did survive the ordeal of the cursed seal. We have to stop that genin from competing. If he gives in dash. Anko started but was cut off by Kakashi. He isn't the type to just give up and listen to you. He's here to test his strength, Kakashi said. But, Anko began. I or Kakashi can place the containment seal on Sasuke. Don't worry, Jiraiya said. Well, if there is no one else, giving up, then let's start the first match, Hayate said, and a part of the wall behind the statue slid down, revealing a screen. There, names began to flash before two stopped. First match of the preliminaries, Senju Uzumaki Naruto against Tenten, Hayate called. Damn it, Naruto swore with an annoyed tone, I just recuperated from my battle with a vixen Iwa Kunoichi, and now I have to take on another Kunoichi? Does the world hate me that much? Rest assured that my hatred of you and Yondaime is still in check, Kuwabai mocked darkly. Shut the hell up, Kuwabai team, Naruto retorted. Can everyone, except the two contenders, retreat to the upper levels to watch, Hayate said, and everyone went up the stairs to the upper levels. Anko grinned menacingly, which didn't go unnoticed by the other jounins. The grin that Anko was wearing was one she'd use before dealing something harsh and cruel on her enemies or torture victims, and the fact that she was wearing it upon hearing Naruto's name being mentioned for his fight with Tenten only served to give them the idea that this match was clearly one-sided. Guy, in spite of this, maintained an optimistic and very enthusiastic spirit, and Lee simply followed his example. Neji stood quietly, wondering how the match between his teammate and Naruto was going to turn out. Sasuke was contemplating on what jutsus Naruto was planning on using, and if any were powerful he'd find some way of acquiring them for himself to increase his own abilities and use them against Itachi. This ought to be interesting, Kakashi thought as he looked up from his orange book, though I'm sure Naruto will hold back some. I'm curious as to what methods Naruto will use in this match and if any will be like Anko's. Kurane looked at Anko questionably after noticing her disturbing smile. The Genjutsu mistress was wondering what tactics the elite genin had up his sleeves and if it was as brutal as Anko's methods. So I'm to face off against Tsunade-sama's son, Tenten thought a bit nervously. This was quite unexpected. I wonder how I'll do against him, seeing that his mother is the great slug Sunin and now a Hokage. Fighters ready? Cough, Hayate asked. Tenten and Naruto nodded. Hayate jumped away to a safe distance. The only rule is that when I, cough, say the match is over, it's over. Cough, also no endangering the audience. Cough, alright, begin, Hayate explained before starting the match. Naruto and Tenten jumped back, putting some distance between each other. Do your best, Naruto-kun, Hinata cheered. Come on. You can do it, Naruto-kun, Ino yelled. Go Tenten. Show everyone your burning flames of youth, Guy yelled, and everyone else wondered who was louder. Yes Tenten. Let your youthful flames shine brightly in this match, Lee yelled, joining the list of who's louder than the other. Geez, our cheerleaders are really loud, Tenten commented. Naruto simply nodded as he remained calm and reserved. Silence filled the arena as the two combatants stood staring at each other. Tenten's distance from me is neither too far nor too close, Naruto noted, this way she can deal with defense and offense without much problem. Clever. Naruto grinned towards Tenten, who got slightly uneasy because of that grin. He has something planned. Can't let him pull off whatever it is he's planning, Tenten thought, and threw 4 shurikens towards Naruto, who easily dodged the weapons as though they were mere toys. Tenten was impressed. So, he can dodge weapons with his speed. Let's test how many weapons he can dodge, Tenten thought before she started running around Naruto. Going in a perfect half circle, she took out 2 scrolls and threw them into the air before leaping with them into the air. Using her Kukiyos no Jutsu, Sashoryu, twin rising dragons, she unrolled the scrolls and started spinning speedily. Picking up speed, she became a blur. Naruto narrowed his eyes as Tenten rapidly summoned dozens of weapons so that she could throw them at him in quick succession. Weapons, lots and lots of weapons started flying out of the spinning blur that Tenten became. Acknowledging the danger he was in. Kage Bushin no Jutsu, Naruto said as many clones encircled around him, forming a shield for him as the weapons came raining down on them, causing them to puff out of existence, resulting in a white smoke cloud to form around Naruto, temporarily concealing him from sight. All the while Naruto and the clones were being bombarded with many katanas, kunous, shurikens, needles, throwing knives. All sorts of weapons were sent flying at the blonde. Suddenly spiked balls were sent flying down upon Naruto and his clones. Soon, Tenten's assault halted as the smoke cloud cleared away, revealing Naruto standing alone clutching his bleeding and wounded left arm, which sustained multiple injuries, as did a few other parts of his body. Tenten landed and smirked at Naruto, her scrolls floating down beside her with all of her weapons scattered and littered all over the arena floor. I must admit, Naruto, that I'm a bit disappointed, Tenten spoke. From all the things I've seen and heard about you, I thought you'd be more of a challenge. Don't be too quick to misjudge me, Naruto rebuked calmly. I warn you, things aren't always as they seem, and you'd do well to look underneath the underneath. You're quite the philosopher, Tenten smiled confidently, but my days at the academy are over. Tenten leaped high into the air again before her weapons were tied to her fingers with thin, nearly invisible strings, allowing her to raise them off the ground and aimed them all at Naruto. Naruto was silent as he saw at the situation he was in with lots and lots of weapons hovering over him. Any last words? Tenten asked while airborne as she prepared to throw her weapons at him again, this time all at once. Just one, Naruto said before releasing his wounded arm and standing up straight as he pointed his finger directly at her with his right hand in the form of a pistol. Looking up at Tenten, he said, boom. That was when a series of explosions occurred around the weapons Tenten was carrying. The 14-year-old found herself surrounded by explosions, which resulted in several of her own weapons being blown and shot and batted right back at her. Unprepared for Naruto's surprise attack, Tenten was lost in the confusion while being assaulted by explosions and many of her own weapons in the air. What the hell, Kiba yelled, who like the other genins, were caught off guard by the shocking turnaround of the battle. Tenten, Lee yelled out from the stand he and the other genins were at. Anko just smiled proudly at Naruto's brutal efficiency and execution of tactics. Guy was worried and hoped that Naruto wasn't excessive and killed his student. A moment later Tenten fell from the smoke cloud in the air and crashed down onto the unforgiving ground on her back with an audible thud, with her weapons, many of them damaged, raining down to the floor and some on her, thus resulting in collateral damage. As of now, her body and face had sustained a series of cuts, slashes, bruises and burns, and her clothes were ragged, burned and damaged in several places and stained in her blood in a couple of places on her ruined clothes. She coughed out some blood from her mouth painfully. It went without say that she was in a lot of pain all over. The question in everyone's minds was, what the hell just happened? Naruto, after healing his injuries, walked over to the wounded and heavily battered girl and knelt down on one knee at her right side. She turned her head and looked up at him and asked weakly, how were you able to beat you with your own weapons?" Naruto finished for her before he explained, "During the moments were you bombarding me and my clones with all of your weapons, I created Daibakuretsu Bushins, exploding shadow clones, and used henge to disguise them as one of your different weapons before strategically scattering them among your real weapons that were already on the floor. I allowed myself to be struck by a couple of your weapons to throw you off. My body was the decoy, your weapons was the bait. Any one of your weapons could have been any of my disguised bombs and you wouldn't have known it until it was too late. More or less, it was a deadly gamble with the odds strongly against you." The girl looked at the blonde with a stupefied expression. Both Sandaime and Jiraiya had the same thought in mind in how Tsunade's gambling habits have rubbed off on Naruto, but with a surprisingly lethal twist. Tsunade herself was surprised at Naruto's use of gambling as a strategic method of combat. The other genins looked at the blonde before recalling the stunt he pulled on Iruka a couple of years ago at the academy with the exploding apple he gave Iruka. Back then Naruto made it very clear that if he really wanted to kill Iruka he'd have already been dead should he had made that exploding apple fatal. It was no secret to any of them that Naruto was holding back a great deal against Tenten the entire time. "I gave you the clue earlier," Naruto spoke, "things aren't always as they seem and you'd do well to look underneath the underneath. But alas, my warning to you fell on deaf ears, especially when I saw you tie all of the weapons to your fingers before raising them up off the ground towards you. You solidified your own defeat to me through the overconfidence I purposely planted in you after allowing myself to be hit by some of your weapons." Tenten couldn't believe what she was hearing, but it made complete sense. She knew about the renowned stories of how Naruto was able to set traps and pranks on Chiryunins, Jounins, and the Umbu and escape their capture. It amazed her how ingenious Naruto was when it came to deception, traps and being an escape artist. She would have never expected her own weapons to backfire at her if disguised shadow clone bombs weren't hidden among them. What surprised her more was the revelation that Naruto used his own body as a distraction to throw off her judgment and cause her to become overconfident in her abilities. He planned her defeat perfectly in such a short time, she realized. That Naruto, Kakashi thought, leave it to him to discreetly pull off surprising usages of resources without going overboard. He's truly my sensei's son. I'm happy I didn't have to fight against him, Shikamaru thought. Fighting against someone like him would have been so troublesome. That strategy one used however would prove useless against any Hyuga, Naruto admitted. Hina-chan would have easily seen through my strategy and effectively counter it. Hinata smiled and blushed brightly on hearing Naruto complimenting her abilities against his. You truly live up to your name and title, Naruto. Tenten smiled, showing some of her teeth despite her pain. I'm happy that I've gotten the chance to fight and test my skills against yours. I'll take my defeat as a lesson to better prepare myself, should we ever face off again. Naruto smiled and nodded his head to her. I'm sure by then you'll have greatly improved. Winner, Senju Uzumaki. Naruto, Hayate said before medic nins and placed Tenten on the stretcher before taking her away for medical treatment. Naruto-kun's spirit of sportsmanship is truly ablaze with his flames of youth. Guy-sensei, Lee said enthusiastically. Yes, Lee, Guy agreed with the same, if not more, enthusiastic spirit. Naruto's flames of youth shines brightly through his dedication to hard work and training like you. Though Tenten have lost her match to Naruto, his humble spirit and sportsmanship radiated his fires of youth even brighter. Naruto turned and walked up to the balcony stand to join the others. As he walked past them, he noticed how Sasuke and Neji were looking at him. They couldn't believe that Naruto brought about Tenten's defeat in a short amount of time without so much as touching her once. They were hoping to see him use some powerful jutsu so they could develop methods of countering it. Instead he used basic ninjutsus, B-ranked kinjutsus, and a well-planned strategy. This wasn't what either of them was expecting or hoping to see. Ino, Hinata, and Haku went and congratulated Naruto on his victory. He smiled sheepishly before telling Hinata and Ino that he's sure that they'll do even better. Soon the blonde shinobi found his way towards Anko and stood by her, only to find that he's now noticeably taller than her. Tsunade, Orochimaru thought as he looked at her unnoticeably in his disguised as an Oto Jounin, it's clear that you've been very busy molding your son into a most unique shinobi, and having my former apprentice as his Jounin sensei only make things more interesting. Nice work out there Yondaime Hokage, Anko smiled toothily as she now had to look up to him for a change. 5 days alone and you come back as a sight for everyone to behold. Grinned wider, or did you have someone in particular in mind? Kurane sighed and shook her head again at Anko's behavior. She soon noticed that whatever else the special Jounin was about to say next to Naruto was cut short when Tsunade shot Anko a look that promised immense pain should she trying anything funny in front of her and everyone else. /N. By now everyone should know how the preliminaries went, so I won't bother wasting everyone's time writing entire scenes in how the match went. I'll just state who won first matches with a few alterations. Shino vs. Abumizaku, winner, Shino. Zaku being quick to act without thinking and properly weighing the consequences for his actions left him without the use of his arms after his defeat to Shino and his Kikai bugs. Suzuki vs. Akadu Yoyoi, winner, Suzuki, who was immediately taken away by Kakashi after the cursed seal started acting up. Shikamaru vs. Tsukakin, winner, Shikamaru. Sakura vs. Ino, a double knockout, neither advanced. Choji vs. Kinyuta Doso, winner, Doso. Doso was equipped with a special speaker implanted into his wrist which served to amplify sound waves and dramatically strengthen his sound-based attacks. With his speaker, Doso could use Kyomizen, vibrating sound drill, to damage Choji's inner ear, throwing him off balance and making him nauseous after he tried using his Nakuden Sensha, human bullet tank. Kankuro vs. Tsurugai Misumi, winner, Kankuro. Lee vs. Gaara, winner, Gaara. The fight between them was very intense and brute. Lee opened 5 of his gates and used his increased abilities against Gaara. In the end, however, after the jutsu wore off, Gaara used his sands to deliver a leg and arm injured to Lee's already worn and damaged body. The injury sustained by Gaara's final assault, compounded with the injuries he sustained during the match, was to leave Lee hospitalized for some time. However, Gaara didn't damage Lee's arm and leg beyond repair, remembering the alliance he made with Naruto, nor was Lee's injuries beyond Tsunade's healing and medic capabilities. Though healing him would take some time, she noted, however, Tsunade estimated that Lee would be up and running after being hospitalized for the next 2.5 weeks. Guy sighed in relief on hearing that. Kiba vs. Temari, winner, Temari. Her battle with Kiba was brute and one-sided, said to say. Neither Kiba nor Akamaru had a fighting chance against her. Both Kiba and Akamaru gave it their all with all the jutsus they knew. However, Temari was able to use her knowledge on wind jutsu at her disposal to block and counter all of their attacks. Both Kiba and Akamaru ended up heavily brutalized and cut up by her wind jutsu attacks. Akamaru was the first to lose consciousness after Temari performed another wind jutsu on him after her fan reached the 2nd star. After her fan reached the 3rd star, Temari performed her futon, Tatsu no Ashigoto, wind release, severing pressure, on Kiba, trapping and cutting him up in the process before having him land painfully on top of her large fan and then tossing him to the floor in a heap next to his dog. Amazingly, Kiba managed to remain conscious despite his injuries. Haku and the other medic nins went over to tend to Kiba's and Akamaru's medical needs. As he was being placed on the stretcher with Akamaru, Haku complimented Kiba on his performance and how great he was on facing Temari. She also said to him that Naruto had told her a number of things about him and his and Akamaru's style of fighting. Kiba made a mental note to thank Naruto later before losing consciousness. Moments later, Shizune re-entered the chamber and rejoined Tsunade. The slug Sunin saw the look on his apprentice's face. She knew Shizune was distraught about what happened earlier, but Tsunade didn't hold it against her. After all, it wasn't every day that someone a girl/woman looks at as a kid brother leaves for 5 days and comes back with a built and stature that would catch many girls' sight. You okay? Tsunade asked with a concerned demeanor. Yeah, Shizune assured while trying to act as her normal self, I'm fine, really. It's not your fault, Tsunade replied, you don't have to be so hard on yourself, Shizune. Shizun looked at Tsunade in surprise. But Tsunade-sama, Shizun replied with feelings of guilt, what I did, how looked at. None of us was expecting what happened earlier to have happened, Tsunade made clear, it caught all of us by surprise, not just you. You're not mad at me, Shizun asked with a surprised expression. Tsunade looked at her and said, we're humans after all and we're all prone to make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. Besides. Shizun waited for Tsunade's next words. If your Uncle Dan was still alive and wore those tiger skin loincloths, who knows how much self-control I might have lost, Tsunade smiled. Tsunade-sama, Shizun laughed. And if it was you both wore those tiger skin loincloths, a voice said lecherously, who knows how dash. Jiraiya was cut short when a fist came and plunged hard into his guts, sending him down to his knees while holding onto his pain-inflicted stomach with his breath briefly knocked out of him. I don't think we need your explanation, Tsunade said as she stood over him with her fist still clenched tightly. Hiruzen, who was watching the scene the entire time, shook his head and sighed, even now at their age, those two still behave like children. On the arena floor. Will Hyuga Hinata and, Hyuga Niji please step down to the arena floor, Hayate said. The two Hyugas made their way to the arena floor. When they got there, they stood at a distance from each other face to face. Final fight, Hyuga Hinata against Hyuga Niji. Begin, Hayate said. Hinata stood in front of Niji, maintaining herself while trying to keep from shaking from nervousness. Niji, the proclaimed genius of the Hyuga clan spoke coldly, Hinata-sama, you should give up. You can't win. Niji Naizen, Hinata said. Naizen, Sakura asked. They are cousins, Ino informed, Hinata is from the main house, while Niji is from the branch house. Niji then activated his Byakugan, veins pulsating next to his eyes. Hinata stayed quiet while Niji remained motionless. After a few minutes of Niji not moving, and Hinata shaking, Niji spoke up, give up. Hinata-sama, your body says clearly that you're afraid. You'll always be weak. There's a reason for the words genius and drop out. It's our destiny to always be separated by an unchangeable fate called birthright. Some are born to be strong, while some, like yourself, are born to be weak. You should dash. I've heard enough, Hinata cut in sternly as she looked up and stared at the surprised Niji. I chose to become a kunoichi and participate in the exams to better improve myself. Naruto-kun and Ino-chan know that about me, as does Kurane-sensei. They believe in me. Niji snorted though he was shocked to see that Hinata didn't look scared anymore, instead she looked determined. She looked up at Naruto and Ino, and found that they both were smiling brightly at her, encouraging her to do her best. She smiled back, before activating her Byakugan and sliding into the Jyuken stance, her right leg bent in front of the other, her left hand pointed towards Niji, palm first, while the right hand was by her hip. So, you aren't going to back down, Niji said with a smirk and mirrored Hinata's pose, very well. The two Hyuga combatants charged at each other. They met and began striking each other with their open palms. Hinata tried to palm Niji's stomach, but Niji blocked and sent a palm towards Hinata's chest. She dodged to the left and tried to strike back. Niji evaded as well. This continued for a while. The fight continued like that for a while, neither of the two Hyuga gaining the upper hand. That was when Hinata attempted another forward palm strike at Niji, who sidestepped to his left as Hinata went forward past him. Niji however was caught off guard when Hinata speedily raised and brought her left leg backwards and stuck her foot hard against his face. Niji was thrust away backwards before hitting the ground on his back. A moment later, he managed to get back on his feet while rubbing his face, which now had a shocked expression. He couldn't deny that her attack hurt a lot and left him dazed momentarily. He couldn't believe that Hinata managed a blow that hard on him, and to his face with her foot in fact. Feeling something warm seeping down his chin, Niji rubbed his lips only to find that he was now bleeding from a busted lip. What the, there's no way she managed to catch me off guard like that, Niji thought to himself for a moment as he tried to remain calm as his anger was boiling inside him. Yes, she did it, Ino cheered. Niji soon understood what she did. Hinata managed to combo the Jyuken with that hard kick to his face. Occasionally such a maneuver wasn't achievable, as rapid muscle movement worn off the chakra control required for the combat style to truly have an effect and not just be wasted chakra. Hinata however had managed to accomplish this to some degree. It didn't have the full influence of an accurate Jiuken, but it was strong enough. Niji gritted his teeth as he looked at Hinata. The boy had always looked at her as being weaker than he was, and he refused to be defeated by her. No, fate would not allow for it, he said to himself. He was the Hyuga prodigy, the one who was given the strongest Byakugan abilities in the Hyuga clan, and he wasn't going to be defeated by the one he regarded as the weaker. He rushed forward again, and the two continued to trade blows with the Jiuken. Though Niji's raw skills were better than Hinata's, however, Hinata's agile and lithe figure allowed her to level the match. Kurane-sensei, Shino said, it's clear that Hinata has improved over the course of time. She's changed in many ways, Shino, Kurane replied. I've known Hinata for a long time, and I watched how she's grown from the shy and closed-in girl she used to be. It wouldn't be an overstatement if I said that her time with Naruto-kun and Ino has helped mold her into the young kunoichi she's worked so hard in becoming. Shino quietly nodded as he and Kurane continued watching the fight. Naruto looked on proudly at how Hinata was holding her grounds against Niji as they exchanged blows after blows against each other. Since Naruto had helped Hinata work on her speed and Byakugan for quite some time, she was able to evade many of Niji's assaults and counter with attacks of her own, some of which managed to make contact on him, leaving some noticeable bruises on him. This only served to further infuriate the male Hyuga. I guess she's not so weak after all, Niji, Naruto smiled as he saw the boy's frustration. What Niji did next however caught Hinata entirely off guard. Kaiten, Niji yelled as Hinata, who stood barely 3 to 4 feet from him, was struck hard from the spinning attack of chakra, launching her far from him and onto the ground with a harsh thud. The Hyuga girl struggled to get back up, standing on unstable limbs. She then looked as Niji assumed a stance that she had seen countless times. You are now in my field of divination, Niji spoke coldly. Hinata had little time to counter before he rushed at her. She knew she wouldn't survive it, and the injuries to several of her vital organs had already been delivered from his last attack. One injured organ wasn't too much of a problem, but several injured vital organs combined compounded with Niji's next assault, she'd certainly die from the strain placed on her body. Hinata's hands moved in poetic motion in front of her as she repeated the pattern over and over and over again until her hands started picking up speed in near blur vision. Shigohaku Rokyu Yansho, protection of Trigram's 64 palms, Hinata whispered under her breath. Her hands moving at incredible speed while blocking each of Niji's strikes. Niji and everyone else in the chamber looked with widened eyes as they watched history in the making, a new groundbreaking jutsu that could protect from the Hyuga's most devastating attack. Naruto grinned at this. Amazing, Naruto contemplated, both Hyugas forced each other to reveal their strongest attacks and defenses. I recall Hina-chan telling me something about a new jutsu she's been working on for some time, but she wouldn't tell me what it was, saying that it was a surprise she wanted to show me when it was ready. Now that I'm seeing it, I have to admit that I'm very impressed. Niji grinned at his teeth as his attack ended. He jumped away and saw Hinata fall to both knees and one hand as she gasped for breath before coughing some blood from her mouth and onto the floor as her free hand held her chest area. The male Hyuga saw that only a few of his blows managed to make their hits. Niji's Kaiten attack followed by the exertion she placed on her body while performing her new jutsu left her vulnerable and very low on chakra. Regardless, she used her remaining strength to stand back up on her feet. Not wanting to see her rise to her feet, Niji rushed forward and delivered a hard palm strike to her chest just above her heart, knocking her off her feet and several feet backwards before hitting the ground on back. The girl lied there on her back motionlessly. Naruto's eyes narrowed venomously on seeing such a maneuver, however he kept his cool, not wanting to anything rash just yet. Announce my victory, Proctor, Niji said coldly before he spat out some blood that had accumulated in his mouth from Hinata's earlier assaults. She won't be getting up. He turned and made his way towards the stairs. Upon doing so, however, he then heard sounds of coughing and shaky movements. He turned to see Hinata struggling to get back up on feet again before she finally stood up again while holding onto her chest. Why do you stand? Niji growled, your body can only take so much and fate has decreed your defeat to me when you were paired to fight me. You can't change what was destined to happen before this match even started. There's no point in defying fate, and you can never change how weak you are, Hinata-sama, just like how a cheetah can't change the spots on its fur. I don't believe in fate, Hinata said weakly between her breaths while looking at Niji face to face. I never did. Nor do I believe that I'm weak, like you believe me to be. I have friends who believe in me, and I promised myself that I would become stronger for them, and I never go back on my word. That's my Nindo, shinobi way. You on the other hand, are suffering a lot more than you are willing to admit, to both yourself and everyone else. Therefore, you use fate as your scapegoat. Niji became very angry at that, and charged towards Hinata, fully intent on killing her. How dare you? Wait, Niji. This fight is over, Hayate yelled while trying to intercept the Hyuga. Kakashi, Guy, and Kurane also tried. All four of them were beaten, however, by Jiraiya. The Sunin grabbed Niji's right hand, held it in a vice-like grip, while holding a kunai to Niji's throat, ready to ram it through at a moment's notice. Jiraiya had moved so fast, Niji had only been able to take a couple of steps. The four Jounins stood around the duo as well. Does the main house always get so much special treatment? Niji asked. Jiraiya looked at Niji coldly before applying pressure and squeezing his hand harder to assure Niji felt it. Hinata does, Jiraiya retorted, and you won. She can't fight on. Jiraiya then let go of Niji. Guy looked reproachfully at his student. Niji, you promised me you wouldn't argue about the main and branch house. Just then, Hinata started coughing and fell down. Before she hit the ground, Jiraiya caught her. Naruto and Kurane rushed over. Shizune, Ino and Haku followed closely behind. Shizune and Haku started treating Hinata. Haku looked really grim. He was aiming to kill her, Haku commented. Naruto turned to Niji, just resisting attacking and killing male Hyuga where he stood. You look like you want to say something, Niji taunted. Naruto didn't reply, instead he turned to look at Hinata, whose eyes were barely opened. "Na, Naruto-kun," Hinata said lowly, "did you like my new jutsu?" "I loved it," Naruto replied, "it was truly amazing, Hina-chan." "I'm sorry, I failed," Hinata said weakly. Naruto disagreed, "No, you didn't fail, not to me. You did great out there and gave your all. I'm proud of that." Hinata smiled weakly before losing consciousness completely. "You should stop cheering for people who can never change themselves." "A shinobi," Niji started, but stopped when he felt a strong bloodlust from the elite genin. Over the years, Naruto have seen how cruel Niji was towards Hinata and how he have demeaned and belittled her unceasingly, and his attempt on her life today was the last straw. Naruto spoke coldly in a voice devoid of emotions, "For Hina-chan, Niji, I'm going to cripple you, for life." Niji didn't admit it, but he felt a cold chill run down his back on hearing those words spoken in the manner Naruto used. What Naruto had in mind against him was uncertain to Niji at this time. "I have to get her to the hospital," Shizune said to some of the medics. They nodded and gently lifted Hinata onto the stretcher. Naruto and Ino watched as Hinata was rushed away, Haku following Shizune on the way to help where she could. Jiraiya grabbed Naruto's shoulder before they turned and walked away together, ignoring the smug Niji. "Winner, Hyuga Niji," Hayate said, but he sounded like he didn't want to declare that. The winners of the matches soon assembled on the arena floor. "Congratulations on passing the preliminaries. Cough, if you would all come and draw a number from this box," Hayate said and indicated to a box Anko was holding. After the 9 finalists that weren't in the hospital had drawn their numbers, each told Ibiki their number. He then scribbled something down on a note of paper. When he finished, he held it out for everyone to see. "He must be 7 then," Ibiki thought, referring to Sasuke. "This is the matchup of the main matches, which will be a tournament," Ibiki said. "Take a good look at the lineup. First match, Senju Uzumaki Naruto vs. Hyuga Niji. Second match, Abarame Shino vs. Sabaku no Kankuro. Third match, Sabaku no Tamari vs. Nara Shikamaru. Fourth match, Uchiha Sasuke vs. Sabaku no Gaara. Fifth match, Doso Kinyuta will challenge one of the 4 remaining fighters. You have a month to train before the main matches, Tsunade said. I suggest you use that time well." "Why a month?" Shikamaru asked. because we have to send out invitations for everyone who has to be here to witness the exam, Hiruzen replied. The judges will decide who becomes Chiryunins and not. Judges? Shino asked. In this exam, Hiruzen explained, the ones who get promoted to Chiryunins are those that show the judges that they have the qualities of a Chiryunin. A ninja's true strength can only be measured in combat, and that's the purpose of the main matches. Judges are made up of important people from the villages, including the daimyo of the different countries. The second exam is finished, Anko barked, meet in the main arena in a month. Dismissed. All of the genins left the chamber with their respective jounins. Naruto however was held back by Anko as Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Sandaime joined up. Naruto, Hiruzen said, we have much to discuss. Chapter 29, Clan Leader Rising. 4 days later. Shizune, Haku, and the other medic nins worked round the clock at the hospital with regards to tending to the medical needs of the genins who fought and lost during the preliminaries. Tsunade had stepped in and helped where she could, as did Naruto, seeing that he was Tsunade's prized protege in medic and healing jutsus. In spite of all the injuries the genins endured, none were considered fatal or terminal, and they all were on the path of making a full recovery, much to Naruto's relief. And speaking of Naruto, during the past 7 days he had to endure a series of complications with regards to his new looks and how everyone else in the village reacted to it. Tsunade and Sandaime had to explain to everyone that Naruto had undergone a transformation as a result of an untested healing and strengthening jutsu that resulted in expected and unfortunately permanent side effects. This jutsu, though unique only to Naruto, was labeled as an S-rank healing kinjutsu since it ages and decreases his lifespan. When many got a good look at Naruto's new features, many couldn't help but take notice his shocking resemblance to the Yondaime. Some began wondering if Yondaime and Tsunade had a secret love affair several months before Kyubei's attack on Konoha. Many others however thought the idea was absurd since Tsunade was much older than the Yondaime and that Minato had deeply loved his wife. Alongside this, Naruto's new looks and bodily structure unfortunately earned him unwanted attention from many older teenage girls and kunoichis in Konoha, thus increasing the size of his growing fan club of girls. Several times he had to hench himself into somebody else so they wouldn't be aware of his presence when he walked by. He found the situation rather annoying at times. Besides all this, Naruto handled himself rather well. 8-year-old Hanabi, upon seeing Naruto's new and older appearance on the second day, didn't recognize him and took him for a total stranger, a very cute-looking stranger. When Naruto saw the smile and blush that was on the younger girl's face that day however, he realized that Hanabi didn't recognize him at all like all the others. He couldn't blame her really, seeing that he was now bigger and more mature looking than she last saw him. He chose to play along with this to see when she'd eventually figure him out as he waited to speak to Hayashi. Naruto had to resist falling to the ground and cracking up when he noticed Hanabi hiding behind columns so she could steal glances at him. The idea that Hanabi was imitating her older sister was unfathomable. He'd have never expected it from someone like her of all people. He found her actions rather cute, innocent, and downright funny. This escapade ended when Hayashi entered and called Naruto by his name. Hanabi gasped when she heard her father call him by that name with no trace of humor in his usual serious yet calm demeanor. She used her Byakugan, though not as strong as either Hinata's or Niji's, to see if that was truly Naruto, the boy she always considered a total weirdo her older sister was so into. When she saw the chakra signatures in his body that confirmed the truth, the girl turned tails and ran off from sheer embarrassment. That was when the blonde completely broke up into a fit of laughter with a perplexed Hayashi staring at him, wondering what it was he just missed. During the third day, Kurane, Naruto, and Ino paid Hinata a visit at the hospital. From what they saw, she was making excellent progress in her recovery after she regained consciousness. While they were there, the trio praised Hinata for the innovative jutsu she created to counter the hacker Rokugyu Yansho, 8 trigram 64 palm. She blushed brightly at this before telling them that it wasn't completely perfected since some of Niji's attacks found openings to penetrate through. Neither Kurane nor Ino made mention to Hinata of what Naruto said he was going to do to Niji for what he did to her so callously during the preliminaries. They figured that it wasn't time for Hinata to hear about it just yet. Hayashi and Hanabi later came by, much to Kurane's surprise. Both Hyugas received word from Naruto about Hinata's fierce battle with Niji and how Niji was really pushed hard by his younger cousin. To say that Hayashi was shocked by the description of the battle would have been an understatement. He nearly spewed his tea from his mouth when Naruto told him that Hinata developed a new jutsu called Shigo Hakurokyu Yansho that countered the Hakurokyu Yansho, a most prized Hyuga jutsu. What also surprised Hayashi was the fact that Niji, a member of Hikadet branch family, managed to use the jutsu in the first place. Though Hinata lost the match in the end, Hayashi however couldn't be more impressed and proud of his daughter's development and great improvement. This again surprised Kurane, who was expecting the Hyuga clan leader to scold his older daughter for losing to her cousin who was a member of the branch family. Hanabi also knew about the Hakusho Kaiten, 8 trigrams Palm's heavenly spin, and Hakurokyu Yansho, and hearing how her older sister created a jutsu to effectively counter the attack was rather hard to believe at first, especially since she at one time thought that the Hakurokyu Yansho was an unbeatable attack and defense jutsu. Hinata noticed how Hanabi gave Naruto a small frown with a light blush that was on her cheeks. Naruto grinned at her mischievously before the younger Hyuga turned her gaze away from him with the frown and blush still pasted on her face. She didn't know what to make out of it, but she was certain to remember to go ask Hanabi about it later, something that the young Hyuga didn't really want to talk about. Present time. Naruto was standing in front of 2 large wooden doors with a scroll in his left hand. Presently he was dressed in a pair of dark bluish-black pants and shirt with back sandals, with white bandages were wrapped around his ankles and into the mouth of the sandals from the sleeves of the pants. The doors were securely locked with a complex seal design on a piece of paper that had the kanji writings for first lock written on it and placed over the doors. Behind him were Tsunade, Jiraiya, Sandaime, Shizune, who was carrying Taunton in her arms, Anko, and Kakashi. They were in distant sector of the Konohagakure no Sato, one that hasn't been occupied or visited for years. As Naruto approached the wooden doors, he recalled what he, his mother, Sandaime, and Jiraiya discussed right after the preliminaries were over. Flashback, 4 days ago. Naruto and Anko were at the Hokage Tower inside the Hokage office with Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Sandaime. The blonde teen shinobi had hinged himself into a jounin so as to not reveal to the rest of the villages his new appearance and the tiger skin loincloths he was wearing. After arriving at the tower, Naruto was given a new set of clothes and sandals to wear. Tsunade was sitting at her desk with Sandaime standing at her right and Jiraiya at her left. Anko stood next to Naruto at his left. "So Kaa-chan," Naruto started, "what's the issue you and everyone else here want to discuss with me?" Taking a breath, Tsunade started, "Naruto, before the preliminaries began, Jiraiya had explained to us about your transformation in the forest, though I found his report difficult to believe at first. I must admit that after seeing the truth for ourselves there's nothing for any of us to refute. It grieves me greatly though that you lost 2 years of your life using a potent healing jutsu that aged you as an irreversible side effect. I'm sorry that what happened to me caused you and anyone else much grief," Naruto replied. "What happened to you caused me anything but grief, Yondaime Hokage," Anko mentally grinned. "I wonder if anything else about you have grown that I should know about. But like I said," Naruto continued, "we can't change what happened to me and we'll just have to adapt to the situation, and I'm going to have to reveal my new appearance to everyone sooner or later. There's no sense in hiding the fact that I've grown older." Tsunade frowned on hearing that, more so with regards that she herself hides her true age from sight. She was never known for accepting aging and losing her beauty of youth. Sighing, Tsunade continued, "Yes, I'm very well aware of that reality, Naru-chan, which moves us to the next topic to discuss." "I'm listening," Naruto retorted. Tsunade explained, "During the days you were in the Forest of Death, all of the clan leaders and village's elders, Sarutobi-sensei and I held an important meeting with regards to you and your position in this village." "My position in this village?" Naruto asked. "What do you mean?" "Naruto," Tsunade took a deep breath, "it's been decided that you as the sole son and heir assume Yondaime's mantle as the new Namikaze clan leader and join the ranks among the village council." After a moment of blank shock, Naruto asked, "But don't I have to be married, be a jounin or in the Umbu to be a clan leader?" At that, a small smile appeared on Sandaime's face while an even bigger smile appeared on Anko's. Jiraiya grinned as he said, "Since you've brought it up, kindly tell us who you think you should marry." "You mean," Naruto replied, "who should I marry first?" As stated in Konoha's Clan Restoration Act, a sole male survivor of a major clan is within his rights to marry multiple times. Besides, as the last of the Namikaze clan, I'm allowed to have multiple wives, yes. Jiraya's grin grew even wider on hearing Naruto's words. The thought of being married to multiple females made the perverted Sunin happy for the young teen and at the same time jealous, especially since the Toad Sunin was aware of how many young girls, and women for that matter, would love to be wedded to Naruto and birth children for him. But just because you could, Tsunade interjected, doesn't mean you should. Besides, your father only married one woman who was none other than your birth mother, Uzumaki Kushina. Sandaime and Jiraiya were aware that Tsunade has been a bit reluctant in allowing the suggestion of Naruto marrying more than one female in spite of the situation the Namikaze clan was in. If anything, she didn't want Naruto to turn into another womanizing pervert like Jiraiya. Yes, I'm well aware of that fact, Kaa-chan, Naruto sighed, and I'm also aware that I'm not my father. One of the reasons why I'm considering doing this is because I don't want to let my clan die out from extinction. Based on Konoha's history scrolls I've read in the archives, my clan has contributed greatly to Konoha's prosperity in turning the tides against enemy nations and villages during the Shinobi Wars, especially during the IWA Konoha War. I will re-establish the Namikaze clan as one of Konoha's strongest clans. Even with that in mind, however, I will assure you that I will not marry anyone for anything but love and affections. Though I'd hate to see my clan die out completely, however, I'd hate for someone to marry me just because they have to, or because my father is Yondaime and my mother is Godame, or for any other shallow reason. Sandaime and Jiraiya looked at Naruto, who was radiating determination. They knew that they would do the same if they were in his position, and Naruto figured that any other sole male survivor would possibly do likewise. But they also respected the teen, because he had spoken of his refusal to marry someone who didn't love him with such sincerity. Sandaime finally broke the silence. In that case, Naruto, who do you want to marry first? Naruto thought for a second. If anything, I'm well aware that Hina-chan is betrothed to me, though she's presently unaware of her engagement to me. At first I wondered whether or not I should go through with the engagement, seeing that I questioned whether or not her feelings for me and my own were genuine or that of an infatuation. And the same could be said of Ino-chan. Both girls I've known for a long time, and throughout those times, we've had many great as well as troublesome times. They shared many things about themselves with me, and likewise I've shared many deep and personal things about myself with them, and we've respected and upheld each other's confidentialities. Both girls wanted to get to know me for me, not just because of whose son I am or what clan I'm from. And likewise, I got to know and appreciate them for who they are and what their potentials are as kunoichis and young women in this village. As Anko looked and listened to Naruto, she couldn't help but acknowledge that the way the blonde-haired shinobi was speaking wasn't in the manner of an adolescent but a mature, level-headed figure. Even though I know people like Kurane, Kakashi, Guy, Asuma, Ibiki, Genma, Hate, Ibisu and Iruka, however, Anko meditated, I really know most of them on a professional level as colleagues, with Kurane being an older sister figure to me. All the other guys stay clear of me and avoid getting involved with me in any romantic way because of my character, past and infamous reputation. Though I was afraid of being hurt again like how Orochimaru used and betrayed me, deep down I sincerely wished that someone did take an interest in getting to know the real me and see me for who I really am. I wished that there was someone I could open up to and pour out all of my buried emotions and thoughts to without fearing being judged by the person I seek to open up to, a person that could be a shoulder for me to cry on and just allow me to let go of all of my anger, sorrow, and loneliness. Someone I could feel comfortable with while being myself and not hide behind the mask I wear in front of everyone, someone who would enjoy my company and won't be ashamed of being seen with me in public view, someone like. Anko's train of thoughts momentarily paused before realizing that only one person has done all the things she described to herself. Not only that, this same person who even gone as far as to defend her openly to anyone who'd insult and slander her, and it was because of that very person that her reputation gradually started to change for the better. When it dawned on Anko who this one person was, her gaze slowly went towards the ground as she tried to pose herself in her normal demeanor. This, however, did not go unnoticed by Sandaime, who chose to remain quiet about Anko's situation, at least for now. Despite the fact that Hina-chan and Ino-chan show great promises as Konoha kunoichis, however, neither of them is ready for marriage and neither of them has reached their full potentials as kunoichis. And to be truly honest with all of you, I don't want to get married at this time, seeing that I myself am not ready for that either. Jiraiya gave a skeptic look after hearing Naruto's declaration. Naruto continued, in truth, I'm not ready to be any girl's or woman's husband, and I have yet to achieve my prior goals of becoming Chunin and then Jounin, perhaps Umbu, and ultimately Hokage. An elite genin clan leader doesn't really sound all that appealing or reputable to me. That's why after the end of the Chunin exams and the invasion that's to follow, Tsunade said, we're going to promote you straight to elite Jounin. Say what? Naruto retorted with a surprised expression, do you all really think I'm ready to take on such a responsibility so soon, especially since I'm not even a Chunin yet? In all honesty, Sandaime replied, if that was the case, neither your mother, nor the council or myself for that matter would have nominated you for the role as a member of the council. Though Uchiha Sasuke is the surviving member of his clan besides Itachi who slaughtered his clan before his desertion however, Sasuke has yet to demonstrate and prove his credentials to us. From what I've seen for myself, the boy is self-absorbed, too antisocial, and is heavily bent on hatred and his want for revenge against Itachi, qualities not fitting for a clan leader or Jounin. Or a Chunin for that matter, Naruto thought to himself. Naruto, Sandaime spoke up seriously, over the course of time you have demonstrated abilities and actions that trained and experienced Jounin-level shinobis would perform and you know how to act when a situation calls for well-thought-out tactics and decisive action. The council have also taken into deep consideration your past actions and negotiation skills. My negotiation skills? Naruto inquired. Sandaime nodded, believe it or not Naruto, you have an uncanny ability to turn enemies into allies. Naruto listened as Sandaime continued, with regards to Haku, she was a most deadly shinobi and the last of her clan with the most feared bloodline limit. Though she was under the eyes and care of Zabuza, you successfully managed to convince her to see how flawed her previous ideals of her purpose in life were and you encouraged her to find a more constructive purpose by joining our village and living amongst us as a fellow Konoha nin and medic ninja. With regards to Gaara and the other 3 Suna nins with him, you handled the situation very carefully knowing you were taking a huge risk and gamble if you will. You acknowledged that they were foreigners with one of them being a Jinhuriki like yourself, which was a trump card you used to gain and earn their trust. Though you battled with Gaara however you managed to prevent it from getting out of hand through preparations made in advance and you effectively negotiated with him before and after your battle with him before repairing his seal. Through this you formed an alliance with them and unveiled to us the Suna-Oto invasion without alerting either the Kazekage or Orochimaru to the fact that their plans have been compromised. This in effect gave us the time we needed to make all of the required preparations for the upcoming invasion which is now in 1 month's time though more preparations are still underway. On top of this, you've handled the situation without having casualties. Your upbringing and training under your mother, Jiraiya, Kakashi, and the rest who are present here have developed your disposition and nature fitting for the role of a Jounin and candidate for a spot on the village council as a new clan leader. But not only that, your abilities are among the essentials of what makes a great Hokage. Naruto remained silent as his mind processed all of the information Sandaime, also known as the Professor, just explained to him in details. Naruto, Sandaime explained, just so that you know, when you're inaugurated as the new Namikaze clan leader, it's written in the laws of Konoha that clan leaders can only be guarded by members of their own clan and from where it stands, you have only one member, namely yourself. Maybe, Naruto retorted, but I'm not worried about that. Besides, I'm sure Anko-chan here won't let anything happen to me after I'm made clan leader, right? Humph. Anko snorted with a smirk, says you Yondaime Hokage. You being the son of Yondaime should more than qualify you as being able to watch your own back. It's playing safe when I have someone I trust watching my back Anko-chan, Naruto replied, besides I trust that you're not a snake, just a wielder of them like I am in some ways. Whatever, Anko replied. It was no secret to either Hokage or Jiraiya that Anko and Naruto had a most unorthodox student-teacher relationship with each other, one that a person in their right mind wouldn't equate to that of a brother-sister relationship. None of you need to worry, Naruto assured, I'll revive the Namikaze clan to its prior power before you all know it. Wait a minute. But how will you all explain to everyone the truth concerning me and my father, and Kaa-chan? Don't worry about that Naruto, Sandaime assured, Tsunade and I will handle that matter once we cross that bridge. In 4 days' time we'll escort you to the estate and district that once belonged to your father that now rightfully belongs to you as the Namikaze heir. Present time. Stepping towards the large wooden doors, Naruto opened the scroll and found 3 seals in it. Biting down on his thumb, he placed his bleeding thumb on the first seal, resulting in a small puff of smoke to appear before a key came from out of the seal. Naruto took the key and smeared parts of it with his blood before applying the key to the seal that was on the wooden doors. When he did that, the seal unlocked and puffed out of existence, thus removing the invisible barrier jutsu around the doors and all that was behind them. That was unexpected, Shizune said while still carrying Taunton in her arms. Minato-sensei was quite the security ace when it came to prevention of unauthorized access to his possessions, Kakashi stated. Indeed, Sandaime agreed before taking a puff of his pipe. Before closing this district, Minato sealed and locked away many important items and locations in a way that only someone of his blood descent can unseal and gain access to his possessions. We should never expect anything less from a seal master of his caliber. Seeing that the doors were now unlocked, Naruto pushed the large doors open to reveal a locked-away district that's been uninhabited for a long number of years. Naruto remained silent as he looked around what was turned into a ghost town of a district before walking inside with the others following him. Looking forward, the blonde's eyes fell upon a flag that was hanging off one of the windows of the houses in the district that had a most familiar insignia on it. Other houses and shops, Naruto and others saw, were carrying the same insignia-marked flags by their windows, while other locations had lamps with the same insignia on them hanging off the ceilings or doorposts. This insignia was that of a spiral. So this is the Namikaze district, Naruto said to himself. This place carries the history and legacy of our entire clan. My son, Yondaime spoke, it'd be a shame if all of this became a forgotten memory of Konoha's history. Naruto gave a small nod as he continued into the district with the others following and looking around. For Sandaime and Jiraiya, it brought back many memories of how this area was once bustling with life and activity many years ago. Kage Bushin no Jutsu, Naruto shouted before a large army of clones, number up to 300 came into existence and stood in attention. Alright, listen up. Seeing that this district is pretty big, I want each of you to scout around and learn as much as you can about our clan's estate. And while you're at it, see how much work will need to be done in cleaning this place up. Got it, the clones shouted at one time before running to carry out their assignments. As the clones were doing as they were told, Naruto and the others made their way to their destination. It was quite a walk before they finally arrived at where they were going. Reaching their destination, their eyes fell upon a large two-story mansion that was beautifully designed, although it was in need of a lot of cleaning work. I'm taking it that this is my father's house, Naruto said. Anko whistled admirably at the sight of the house. Your old man must have really had deep pockets. It's amazing that all of this and his wealth now belongs to you. Going up the small flight of stairs, Naruto stood in front of the door that was evidently protected with another complex seal design on a piece of paper that had the kanji for second lock written on it and placed over the door. Naruto opened the scroll in his hand before he bit his thumb. He smeared a small portion of his blood on the second seal in the scroll before a key puffed from out of it. Taking the key, Naruto smeared a small amount of his blood on it before applying the key onto the seal on the door. When he did that, the seal unlocked and puffed out of existence, thus removing the invisible barrier jutsu around the mansion. The group went inside to get a good look around the mansion. While looking around, they saw the place was rather large with 6 extra bedrooms with private baths for each. There was a huge kitchen, dining and living room that could sit a nice sized group of people. Also, there was a forge for making new weapons, an indoor dojo filled with weapons and weights to help build up speed, stamina, and endurance. Plus there was a large library filled with books and jutsu scrolls with a study office located inside. In short, it was a shinobi's dream hangout spot. I can't believe this was actually my father's house, Naruto said in disbelief. It's really hard to believe. Your clan was renowned for their seals and jutsus, Sandaime explained. They've created and sold many seals and jutsus, some of which were security jutsus that many uses today. Your clan profited greatly from this, not to mention from the investments they made. I always suspected that his birth parents were loaded with cash, Tsunade said as she looked around the mansion. Naruto retorted, none of which you'll be using for your gambling escapades. Tsunade frowned and pouted on hearing that. Shizune sighed as she shook her head, some things about her will never change. The group then made their way to the master bedroom located on the second floor. Upon arriving there, Naruto opened the twin doors. Walking and looking around the large bedroom, Naruto saw a king-size bed stationed at the center of the room, which had many beautifully designed and sculptured drawers and cabinets nicely arranged around the room. Though the room was rather dusty all over, everyone was still able to appreciate its potentials once everything was cleaned up. "What a room," Anko shouted enthusiastically. "The amount I'm paid as my salary couldn't come near how much all this stuff must be worth." Shizun sneezed a few times after a couple of dust particles crept into her nose. Spoke after her brief period of silence, "It could use a woman's touch in its cleaning work, and seriously it could use a lot of it. My clones and I will take care of the cleaning problems later," Naruto assured as he explored the room some more. Going over to a door in the room, Naruto opened it to find a nice-sized bathroom inside, bigger than those found in the extra bedrooms. Stepping out of the bathroom, Naruto left the bedroom, decided to head back to where the dojo was, leaving the others behind. Soon he arrived at his destination and entered the training facility. Looking around, he eventually found what he was looking for. There was a portrait hanging on the wall to the right. It was a picture of his father and birth mother, both of whom were dressed and geared in umbu uniforms. Naruto had seen pictures of his birth mother before, showing her elegant beauty and red hair. "Looks like my birth mother was from whom I inherited my mixed tan complexion from," Naruto figured while going over to the portrait. He then removed it to see a complex seal that was placed on the wall, which was hidden behind the portrait. In the middle of the seal was the kanji Kiro, meaning yellow, written in it. Looking at the scroll in his hand, Naruto opened it and was about to bite down on his thumb again to unseal the third key hidden inside the third seal in the scroll when, "Leave this seal alone for now, Naruto," Yondaime suggested. "You should come back to this one at a later time." Naruto chose to comply with his father's suggestion as he placed the portrait back on the wall over the seal. "Naruto," a masculine voice called from outside the dojo. The blonde turned to see Jiraiya standing by the door. "Is everything all right?" Jiraiya asked. "Just fine, Arojisen," Naruto assured. Jiraiya saw that the blonde knew something that he wasn't saying. "So you know what's behind that wall?" the Toad Sunin inquired. "I have an excellent idea," Naruto replied, "but my father told me not to disturb it at this time." Jiraiya nodded in understanding, fully knowing what his former prized student sealed in that wall. "It's funny how I found you here in this dojo, Neo Yondaime," Jiraiya said, "seeing that both the final part of the Chunin exam and the invasion are in 3 weeks' time, I have only a certain amount of time in training you." "Training me?" Naruto retorted, "What more will you train me in? There's something I've been meaning to train you in for some time. However, I wasn't sure if it would be a success. But I suppose we can chance it." "Of course," Naruto agreed. "How many gambles have I lost to yet?" "Can't say Tsunadeheim can say the same," Jiraiya retorted as he gestured to Naruto to come over to him. Upon reaching the older man, however, Naruto grew weary and disoriented before falling to the ground on his face. "Naruto," Jiraiya called out as he rushed over to the collapsed ninja. Checking on him, Jiraiya sighed in relief after seeing that the blonde only lost consciousness from experience exhaustion. He realized that the clones Naruto sent to scout around the district dispelled and relayed all that they learned back to him almost at the same time. "Great," Jiraiya sighed, "it looks like I'll have to carry him back." Jiraiya threw Naruto over his shoulder and exited out of the dojo to meet up with the others. 4 days later, Naruto was back at the Namikaze district with Jiraiya. The blonde had spent 2 days cleaning the entire district after summoning over 2,000 clones to help with the task. The clones worked either in pairs, groups, or individually in completing the tasks and sectors of the district assigned to them. Needless to say, Naruto suffered from massive chakra exhaustion and was bedridden for an entire day to recuperate on the 3rd day. Fully revived and ready to go, Naruto, with the same scroll in his hand, was back in the dojo with Jiraiya standing behind him. They were facing the same portrait Naruto took down a few days earlier. "Naruto," Jiraiya said, "do you feel it's time and that you're ready? My father once told me that he'd let me go through with this once he believed I was ready and mature enough," Naruto remarked. "That was over 2 years ago." Jiraiya stayed quiet as he waited for Naruto's next words. 10 days ago, Naruto continued, "Kaa-chan, Ji-san and the council deemed me ready to become a jounin and assume the role as the new Namikaze clan leader and become a member of the council after the end of the Chunin exams and the invasion." Smiled, I believe it's time I start becoming what I proclaimed myself as and continue my dream of surpassing my father." With that, Naruto removed the portrait and set it down on the ground by the wall, exposing the same seal again. Opening the scroll, he bit down on his thumb and smeared some of his blood on the third seal in the scroll, causing another third key to puff from out of it. On the key was inscribed the kanji Senko, meaning flash. After coating some blood on the key, Naruto applied the key onto the seal on the wall. When he did so, the seal glowed with the key before disappearing and revealing a small safe box built into the wall. Naruto reached for the door of the safe and opened it, finding the items he was expecting to see. Inside the opened safe was a scroll, a book, and 10 tri-pronged kunais. Naruto reached in and took the book out first. Opening it, he read into it and realized that was his father's private journal, which went into details about the amount of time and years he spent creating and perfecting the Hiraishin no Jutsu. This book contains the Hiraishin's entire history from the time my father began creating concepts for it, Naruto said to Jiraiya as he skimmed through the book momentarily before closing and placing it into his pocket. Turning his attention back to the opened safe, Naruto reached in again and pulled out the scroll and the 10 tri-pronged kunais. "Naruto," Jiraiya spoke seriously, "the Hiraishin was one of your father's most prized and powerful signature jutsus. Though your Kage level, however, mastering this jutsu will not be easy and will require a great amount of time, which we don't have. It took your father a long time to master the jutsu, let alone create it in a way that makes it impossible to copy. Then it's best to make use of what little time we have before the invasion," Naruto retorted. "The Hiraishin was a jutsu left behind by my father, and now I'll work as hard as I must to make it my own." Jiraiya smiled and nodded. "That's not all you'll be learning, Neo Yondaime Hokage. Since your father had a contract with toads, I'll later have you sign the contract to summon toads as well." "Is that really possible?" Naruto asked. "Seeing that I have the fox summoning contract, do you think Gamabunta will be willing to allow me to be his subordinate?" "I'm sure he'll make an exception for you once he learns you're Minato's boy," Jiraiya assured as he placed his arm around Naruto's shoulders after closing the safe and placing the portrait back on the wall. They made their exit out of the mansion to find a nice wide clearing to begin the long and grueling training. 2 weeks later, Naruto spent 2 days studying the scroll that discussed the Hiraishin and its jutsu formula in length at the Namikaze district. The next 7 days that followed in practicing that S-rank jutsu proved to be one of Naruto's most difficult times. Even with the use of Kage Bushins, Hiraishin was a most difficult jutsu to use as repeated usage of it drained a grade of chakra. During his training, Jiraiya gave him pointers about moving his chakra with a rhythmic flow as though he was travel with the currents of the wind and not against it. Yondaime gave Naruto some coaching words and encouraged him to keep practicing. He wanted Naruto to discover for himself how to use and master the Hiraishin to its fullest potential. On a few occasions Naruto summoned over 110 clones, and with the extra 10, he gave each of them one of the Hiraishin kunais. Posing the other 100 clones as the enemy battalion, he had the 10 clones throw the kunais in random directions within the enemy ranks before he'd teleport within their ranks and slaughter them. Presently, Naruto was only able to travel up to a 60-yard radius before falling to his face to the ground from chakra exhaustion as a result of repeated use of the jutsu. His 60-yard radius was going to do for now, he decided, until he was able to travel to farther distances. On the 14th day, Naruto went to meet up with Jiraiya at a river to practice toad summoning. Upon finding him, however, he found the old pervert doing what he does best, his so-called research. Jiraiya was occupied trying not to let his lecherous giggles get too loud as he watched the pair of young girls in bathing suits down in the river splashing and playing with one another. Naruto, using his Warak no Jutsu, went over to the perverted Sunin and whispered into his ears enticingly that she was here for her training. When Jiraiya turned around, he grimaced when he found only Naruto standing there and not the appearance of that sexy naked and drenched big-breasted female Naruto temporarily transformed into, which he was hoping to see. To add more to his grief, the girls down by the river gathered their things and returned back to the village, unknowingly leaving Jiraiya and Naruto behind. "Come on, Arojisen," Naruto said, "it's time to sign me up with the toad contract." "I will go key," Jiraiya retorted before he gave a lecherous smile with a bit of drool in his mouth, "that is, if you'll turn into that hot girl again." Naruto frowned at this before he gave an evil smile. "Naruto, what are you up to?" Yondaime asked, knowing that whatever it was Naruto was planning wasn't going to end in Jiraiya's favor. Naruto walked over to Jiraiya and grabbed him by the wrist. "Don't go away," Naruto said before he ran off into the bushes over to where the river was. The Sannin just stood there wondering what Naruto was up to. A few moments later, "Jiraiya-sama," a sweet feminine voice called out from behind the bushes. The perverted Sannin immediately responded as he crept into the bushes to see a sight he wanted to see. Over in the river there was a hot and beautiful soaked and naked girl with long blonde hair who looked no older than 23 with an ideal proportion and figure, and big breasts with white smoke covering her privates and parts of her breasts. Jiraiya drooled with longing eyes at the sight. What he failed to pay attention to was the fact that in her right hand hidden in the running waters was a particular kunai with 3 blades. Jiraiya had no time to react in any way before he was struck brutally and sent flying into the air with a yellow flash following after him momentarily. The Sannin crashed and skidded off the rocky ground harshly before coming to a complete stop. The nude girl walked over the unconscious Sannin with an innocent smile on her face while holding the tri-pronged kunai. "Was it good for you, Jiraiya-sama?" the girl asked innocently before changing back to normal with a grin on his face, "because it was sure as hell good for me." Yondaime shook his head at what he just witnessed. He knew that Naruto had placed a jutsu formula on Jiraiya's wrist when he grabbed him. "When I said I wanted you to realize the full potential of the Hiraishin," Yondaime said, "I never expected that you'd go as far as combine Hiraishin with Warak no Jutsu." "Be that as it may, father," Naruto retorted, "but as ninjas, we use whatever weaknesses we can find about an enemy and exploit it to our advantage. And since I have a very long way before I master this jutsu, I must use whatever innovative methods I can devise that'll allow me to effectively utilize the limited use I have with Hiraishin, seeing that it consumes a lot of chakra." Yondaime chose not to reply as he and Naruto waited for the bruised-up Jiraiya to regain consciousness. Not wanting the perverted Sannin to be as sour as he was going to be after he wakes up, Naruto went over and began healing his injuries. 20 minutes later, Jiraiya opened his eyes to see Naruto looking down at him. "Finally you woke up," Naruto said. "Looks the experience was rather overwhelming." Jiraiya knew that Naruto knocked him out. But seeing that the boy was kind enough to treat and heal all of his injuries, he chose to let it go. "Alright Gaki," Jiraiya started, "let's get this show started." Jiraiya bit his thumb and after performing the required hand seals, "Kuki Yos no Jutsu," he yelled as he slammed his hand down on the ground, resulting in a large amount of white smoke to appear. When the smoke cleared, the figure the duo was expecting to see was present before them. "Jiraiya," Gamabunta started with an annoyed tone before taking a puff of his pipe, "it's been a long time since you last summoned me. This better be important as I don't like having my time wasted." "Gamabunta," Jiraiya said, "I would like for my apprentice to sign the Toad contract with your permission. His father is Namikaze Minato." The towering Toad looked down at Naruto and saw the resemblance. "Yes," Gamabunta acknowledged, "I see that he truly is the son of Yondaime, but I sense that he has signed another summoning contract." Jiraiya then explained the situation to Gamabunta while the huge Toad listened quietly. It wasn't long until he was done. "I see," Gamabunta said as he took another puff of his pipe, "that's quite an interesting story, Jiraiya. Very well, Naruto may sign the contract. But before he becomes my subordinate though." Naruto and Jiraiya listened and waited to hear what important condition had to be followed. "He must first have a drink of sake with me," Gamabunta finished with a smile on his face. Both Jiraiya and Naruto sweat dropped at this. "I can't drink," Naruto replied, "I'm underage." Gamabunta laughed, "Don't worry Gaki. I'll let you be my subordinate so long as you promise to have that drink with me when you're older." "It's a promise then," Naruto smiled, "and I never go back on my word." "That's my nindo." Gamabunta nodded before disappearing in a large puff of white smoke. Jiraiya this time summoned another Toad that was the size of large horse, this one being reddish-brown with back designs on it and a scroll in its mouth. The Sannin then took the scroll from the Toad's mouth and opened across the floor. "Alright Naruto," Jiraiya said, "sign your name next to the column where Minato's name is." After biting his thumb, Naruto hurried over to the scroll and signed the contract. He then smudged some blood on his other fingers on his right hand and stamped his thumb and fingers down under his name. The blood on the scroll glowed momentarily, indicating that the contract accepted him. Rolling the scroll up, Jiraiya placed it back into the toad's mouth before it puffed and disappeared from the scene. Turning to Naruto, Jiraiya said, "Now, summon one of the toads." Nodding, Naruto, with his thumb still bleeding, performed the seals. "Cookie Yos no Jutsu," the blonde yelled before a puff of smoke appeared. When it cleared, stand before them was a small orange-red toad in front of them. "Hi, I'm Gamakaki," the toad greeted Naruto before turning to the Sunin. "Long time no see, Jiraiya-sama." Jiraiya sighed and sweat dropped at the sight. Looks like Naruto will have to work on summon toads for while, Jiraiya though. A week later. During the last 7 days, Naruto was hard at work practicing and training as hard as he could. On the 3rd day, he switched gears and turned to practicing that new medic jutsu he's been experimenting on in secret for quite some time now. After Tao done some research for him as a favor he asked of her a few weeks ago in the Forest of Death, Naruto used what he learned from her and tried to apply it to the new medic jutsu he's been trying to create. After 2 more days, he was finally starting to see rewarding progress being made, much to his delight, though this new jutsu required a large amount of chakra. Regardless, the blonde was determined to make it work, one way or another. At the same time during the week, the genins were made aware of the invasion by their respective jounins. However, they were instructed that during the day of the final part of the Churyunin exam to go about it as they aren't aware of it until the actually invasion occurs. 2 days later. Feeling refreshed and rejuvenated, Naruto made his way to one of the training grounds. While on his way, he contemplated on how he going to pulverize and humiliate Neji in the fight he was going to have with him in less than 3 days. Naruto felt that the arrogant Hyuga merited so much more than a mere thrashing. No. The blonde wanted to humiliate Neji in manner that would make everyone realize that the proclaimed Hyuga prodigy had it coming to him, especially after what he did and attempted to do against Hinata. From all that he put up with over the years up to what occurred during the preliminaries, Naruto wasn't about to let Neji escape with his pride intact. He knew Neji, like all Hyugas, could see the tenketsus, which were supposed to be nearly invisible to the human eyes. He saw how Neji attempted to close off all of Hinata's tenketsus, which would have resulted in her death had he succeeded after he used the Hakusho Kaiten on her. The young ninja was so deep into his thoughts that he didn't realize that he was already at the training ground. He came to this realization when he heard sounds of punches being made against a training log. Recognizing the voice, Naruto followed it and eventually found Hinata training by herself, repeatedly punching the log in front of her. He leaned up against one of the trees as he watched Hinata go at it almost non-stop until she decided to take a break. As determined as ever to become stronger for your friends, yes, Naruto spoke as he made his way over to her. Hinata turned and smiled brightly at Naruto with a blush on her cheeks. She couldn't help but admire his new height and stature. "Naruto-kun," Hinata greeted, "how long were you here?" "Not long really," he answered, "I was coming over to do some warm ups when I heard you training." "I've been here all morning," Hinata revealed. "Father told me that he's most pleased with the progress I've made and want me to continue with it." "That's great to hear," Naruto smiled. "After your old man learned about your new jutsu, he choked and nearly spat his tea out of his mouth." "Too bad I didn't have my camera then, having a picture of that would have made a nice blackmail." "Naruto-kun," Hinata laughed. "Just kidding," Naruto laughed, "well, partly anyway." Both teens eventually stopped laughing. After a moment of silence. "You're to fight Neji in 3 days, on the same day of the invasion," Hinata said, breaking the silence. Naruto merely nodded. "I've been training hard for it, I'm sure you know it." "I've been training also like everyone else," Hinata spoke. "We've all been preparing for that event." "We'll be ready for it, Hina-chan," Naruto assured. "We Konoha ninjas won't be overtaken that easily." Hinata nodded in agreement. A moment later. "Naruto-kun," Hinata said, gathering all of her courage to say what she had to ask of him, "I want you to swear a promise to me." Naruto looked at Hinata curiously. "And what promise do you want me to swear by to?" Taking a deep breath, Hinata looked at Naruto straight in the eyes and said, "Naruto-kun, give me your sworn word that you'll." 3 days later, Konoha Stadium. It was the day of the Churyunin exam finals. The stadium was packed with tourists, daimyos, and many other people who came to watch the great fights that would occur later on. There was no empty seat at all in the stadium. Everyone wanted to watch the matches that would take place, but some of them only came to watch the fight between Gaara and Sasuke, while others wanted to see Naruto and Neji in action. Up in the cage balcony, the Tsunade and the Kazekage were in their seats while waiting for the exam to commence. Next to the Kazekage were two of his guards. By the time nearly everyone was seated, nearly all of the competitors for the final exam had arrived at the stadium. With the only exceptions being both Naruto and Sasuke, both of whom were the only ones yet to appear to face their opponents, Hyuga Neji and Gaara. That Naruto is all talk, Neji smirked. I knew he'd cower out after what he saw me do to Hinata-sama. Fate has predetermined that he'd lose to me, the same as how Hinata did. The proctor for this part of the exam was Shiranui Genma, another special jounin who had volunteered in substituting for Hayate, who was currently helping with the defense of Konoha when the invasion began later. Sandaime and Jiraiya were making last-minute preparations with the Umbu and taking care of business with the other Konoha ninjas. Kakashi wasn't present either, most likely making last-minute preparations with Sasuke. Genma, with a senbon needle sticking from out of his mouth in his teeth, looked at Tsunade for assistance as to what he should do. Tsunade sighed, wondering what was keeping her son up. Gaara was slightly irritated by Naruto's lateness, while Temari was wondering when Naruto was going to show up. Kankuro had the same thought in mind while contemplating what he should do if Naruto doesn't show it. Shino was as calm and motionless as ever. Shikamaru was lazily contemplating on saving himself the trouble and forfeiting his match so he could later help out against the invasion and later do some cloud watching. Lee, who was sitting next to Guy, was worried, and though he wanted the opportunity to face off against Neji, however, he hoped that Naruto wouldn't end up disqualified for not showing up. Guy was hoping that Naruto's youthful flames didn't diminish while he was in his prime. Haku was sitting next to Shizune in the audience not too far from the cage balcony. Like many others, they were wondering what could have happened to delay Naruto. Sai was sitting high in the audience with a neutral expression, confident that Naruto would show up on time. 9 days ago, Sai gave his report to Naruto on his findings on Kabuto and how Baki was in cahoots with him. Like Naruto, during the written portion of the exam, Sai detected something about Kabuto that was rather off and brought it to Naruto's attention in private later that same day. Sai suggested that he would go and keep an eye on Kabuto and see if there was anything he could find. Naruto agreed under the condition that he instructed Sai not to engage Kabuto in any way and to maintain a low profile while still on Kakashi's Genin team. Naruto had brought the information he learned from Sai to Tsunade and Sandaime's attention before they issued instructions to their Jonins to keep an eye out for Kabuto during the invasion. Genma saw that Neji still wore that arrogant smirk on his ever-so-confident face, expecting to have him call the match as a forfeit. Senju Uzumaki Naruto, Genma called out, "Please come down to the arena floor or you will lose by forfeit." "Naruto-kun, where are you?" thought Hinata worriedly while sitting right next to Kiba, who was a little disappointed that Haku couldn't sit next to him since she was Shizune's assistant. "Damn it, Naruto," Kiba mentally screamed, "where the hell are you? Don't give that bastard Neji the satisfaction of victory." Sakura, Ino, Choji were all wondering where on earth was Naruto. Ino was hoping that nothing bad happened to him, especially knowing that Suna and Oto are planning open war against them. Tenten, sitting somewhere in the crowd, was expecting to see Naruto show up eager to face off against her teammate. In spite of the situation and the upcoming invasion that was to occur, she was hoping that Naruto wasn't planning on backing down from his match. Asuma and Kurane, sitting next to each other, were wondering what happened to cause Naruto's delay. Anko was getting impatient in waiting for Naruto while sitting among the audience. "He better show up, that's for sure," Anko said to no one in particular with her arms crossed over her breasts, "otherwise he'll be in a world of hurt when I'm through with him." Hayashi and Hanabi were sitting together and waiting for Naruto to make his appearance. The Hyuga clan leader was growing annoyed at the fact that Naruto didn't show yet. "Otosan," Hanabi asked, "Naruto-sama has not arrived. Is he forfeiting to Neji-san?" Hayashi said nothing as he stared down at Neji, while thinking about how Neji learned to use the Hakushokaiden. Alongside this, he was also thinking about how Hinata was unknowingly betrothed to Naruto, who is to become the new Namikaze clan leader. He could only wonder what her reaction will be once she's told the truth about this arranged marriage. The audience was getting restless and wanted the final exam to begin. Somewhere in the audience was a young female figure with long dark brown hair dressed as a genin with black pants and a beige turtleneck shirt that concealed her neck from sight. Like many in the audience, she was anticipating Naruto's battle. After another 5 minutes. I have no choice, Gemna sighed while giving a mental apology to the blonde. Since Senju Uzumaki Naruto is not here, Tsunade frowned. Niji grinned. The winner of the first match is Dash. Genma never got a chance to say the final words when his eyes caught sight of a blonde-haired figure making his way into the arena. The figure was dressed in a similar clothes and gear a jounin would wear. What was also noteworthy about this figure was the fact that he was wearing a white trench coat with red flame designs around the bottom of the coat. The trench coat looked exactly like the one Yondaime Hokage used to wear, except on the back of the trench coat were red kanji writings that said, Konoha no Nidaime Senko, Konoha's second flash. Everyone in the audience looked on as the figure entered the arena floor, with many in the audience murmuring to each about his uncanny resemblance to the Yondaime. Scratch that, Genma announced, Senju Uzumaki Naruto has arrived. Sorry for the delay, Naruto said, there was something important I had to take care of at the last second. Genma simply shrugged. Tsunade smiled upon seeing her son's entrance. Yeah, Kiba yelled enthusiastically, Naruto made it. Both Ino and Hinata smiled happily upon seeing Naruto's arrival. Sai merely nodded to him in recognition. The mystery girl remained quiet as she analyzed his appearance before unconsciously reaching for her neck under her turtleneck. Anko grinned widely, hoping to see a nice and fierce battle between the two. Shizune and Haku were relieved that Naruto wasn't going to be disqualified before the match even started. Naruto and Niji stood and faced each other at opposite ends of the area with some distance between them, with Genma standing in the center. Both competitors are present. The first match of the Churyunin exam finals will now officially start. Senju Uzumaki Naruto vs. Hyuga Niji. Ready, begin, said Genma before leaping out of the way. Niji went into his Jukin stance, whereas Naruto just stood there with his arms at his sides while his eyes just stared at the Hyuga coldly. Are you ready, Niji? Asked Naruto calmly. I'm ready to win if that's what you're implying, said Niji before activating his Byakugan. Fate has declared me the victor and sealed your destiny when you were paired to fight me. Naruto said nothing as he assumed a taijutsu stance that many jounins in the audience hadn't seen in 13 years. The Kazekage though gave a suspicious stare at the youth when he saw the stance Naruto took. That stance, Asuma said in disbelief. The only person who assumed that stance was Yondaime Hokage. Kurane finished for him equally shocked, but how did Naruto learn that taijutsu? The genins weren't familiar with the stance Naruto assumed and wondered from where he learned it. Hyuga Niji, Naruto spoke seriously, today I will fight you, not as the elite genin. Niji stayed quiet as Naruto finished, but as Konoha's second flash. Chapter 30, Fate Defied. Naruto and Niji stood there in the battle stances staring at each other as though one was waiting for the other to strike first. Everyone in the audience waited intently while wondering what was going to happen next. Niji looked at his opponent, wondering how to beat him. But before he could do anything, Naruto did something that caught everyone and Niji off guard. The blonde dropped from his stance and stood up straight with his arms to his sides. Niji smirked. What's the matter, Naruto-sama? Forfeiting to me already? Aren't you the ever-confident one? Naruto retorted, like every other ninja I've ever fought. Aren't you aware that everything in life is predetermined and decided before a person is born? Niji asked with his smirk gradually shrinking as he thought about his own problems. People are only as gifted as the families they're born into. Naruto gave a slight frown though he maintained a calm demeanor. Haven't you ever taken the time to look at the obvious facts, Naruto-sama? Niji went on. Only a handful of shinobis are chosen to become Hokages. And those that have become Hokage were born into that destiny. That's the only way. Naruto stayed quiet momentarily until. Tell me, Naruto asked as Niji looked at him cautiously as he kept his guard up. Naruto asked, why do you believe in fate so much? What possible reasons could you have to accept such a ridiculous belief? Niji looked at him before dropping out of his Jukin stance and deactivating his Byakugan. Reaching for his headband, the male Hyuga removed it off his head. Because of this, Niji answered and pointed to a green seal on his forehead. The seal looked like an X with a hook on the left and on the right sides of the X. My father Hyuga Hisashi, Niji continued, was the twin brother our clan leader, Hyuga Hayashi-sama. They were only separated by a few minutes, but their fate was sealed when Hayashi-sama was born first. My father was placed into the branch house whereas Hayashi-sama was allowed to be part of the main house. My father was later given the birdcage seal after being made part of the branch house. Naruto remained quiet and reserved. He stared at Niji for a moment with a blank facial expression. I'm sure you've heard about the great ceremony Konoha was having when the diplomat from Kyumigakure came to sign an alliance treaty with our village after many years of warring. Everyone was there from Jounin to Genin. That same day however, the Hyuga clan never showed up for the ceremony because something else was taking place. It was the important day the Hyuga heiress turned 3. Naruto stayed quiet with a calm expression as he listened on. Hayashi said nothing. It was Hinata-sama's 3rd birthday, Niji continued, both houses came together on that day, the very day that I, who was 4 at the time, was turned into a bird in a cage through this curse on my head. While my father had long resented the main house, my birth brought his hate to a new level because I, a natural genius, was born into the branch house, thus making me a branch house member. He saw that I would never be able to realize my full potential by learning the Hyuga clan's most secret jutsus. Angered by this, my father began to outwardly despise the main house and its members and was punished on some occasions because of it. One time my father's birdcage seal was activated by Hayashi-sama while Hinata-sama and I watched during the day she was training with her father. Due to the punishments my father received, I in time came to resent the main house. Hanabi looked at her father who had his eyes fixed on Niji and Naruto. The birdcage seal is the absolute fear of the death given to the branch house families by the main house. With a simple secret hand seal, the branch member's mind can be easily destroyed, resulting in death. And this curse will only disappear after death, sealing up the abilities of the Byakugan along with it. Countless people have been after the Hyuga's most prized bloodline limit and its secrets. The branch house was created to see to the protection of the Byakugan and this seal guarantees no disobedience from any of its members. It's an effective system designed to protect the Byakugan. Then that incident happened. Naruto continued to listen with no expression on his face. Hayashi closed his eyes with his head slightly lowered. My father was killed by the main family, Niji stated. One night Hinata-sama was kidnapped by someone. Hayashi-sama quickly took action and killed the culprit who was wearing a mask. Can you guess who it was? There was no answer. It was the Kyumigakure diplomat who had just signed the treaty with Konoha, Niji answered. It became clear that he was here after the Byakugan. Kyumigakure, after seeing that their diplomat's plan had failed, demanded Hayashi-sama's corpse as retribution for Konoha breaking the treaty. They wanted our clan's bloodline limit and the Byakugan. Konoha, wanting to avoid war, agreed to their wishes. But father is, Hanabi said as she looked at her father who had his eyes fixed on Niji before closing his eyes. War was safely avoided, thanks to my father who was killed by the main house and used to replace Hayashi-sama's corpse. To escape this horrible curse, there's no other method but death. All the genins looked at Niji with a stupefied expression. Naizen, Hinata said quietly though Kiba was still able to hear her. Tsunade looked on without saying a word. She was very well aware of the circumstances behind that incident, but she was also aware that there was more to the story that Niji wasn't aware of. They were twins and their strengths were virtually the same, Niji went on, born first, born second, their destinies were decided by just that. Smirked sinisterly, and this fight, your fate was decided the moment I became your opponent. You're destined to lose to me. Naruto closed his eyes as he reached into his trench coat. I won't lose to a coward who's always blaming all of his problems on fate and every other nonsense, Naruto declared coldly. Someone as ignorant as you shouldn't be lecturing me, Niji shot back, you can never understand what it's like to be burdened with a symbol you can never be rid of. There was a moment of silence amongst everyone there. Naruto knew that Niji's words were false although Niji himself wasn't aware of that reality. Naruto thought back to the seal on his stomach, knowing who was locked away within him. He also thought back to how many on the council regards him as his father's reincarnation and not as his own person who doesn't want to be under Yondaime's shadow. You're wrong Niji, Naruto retorted, I understand the feeling a lot more than you know. The only difference is that I learned to deal with it instead of looking for people and concepts to place blame on, so shut the hell up. Niji was partly taken aback by this. You're not the only one who's suffering, Naruto added. Hina-chan is suffering just as you are, a main house member working hard to change and strengthen herself to gain acknowledgement and approval. The branch house is supposed to protect the main family, yet doing what you did to Hina-chan, in truth you're trying your hardest to defy fate. Naruto speedily threw a kunai from out of his trench coat at Niji, who easily caught it with his left hand. The blonde kept his sight fixed on the Hyuga as he waited to see what he was going to do next. You'll have to do better than that, Niji said confidently before tossing the kunai to the side. Naruto said nothing as he ran towards the Hyuga, who now reactivated his Byakugan. Reaching the boy, Naruto engaged the Hyuga in taijutsu combat. The battle was fierce and hard, with them trying to gain dominance over the other. What is he doing? Ino asked to herself. Niji shouldn't pose that great a challenge to him. You're up to something, Yondaime Hokage, Anko thought with a smile on her face. What devious plan have you conjured up that you're planning on unleashing? You should give up. Fate has chosen me as the winner of this fight. You cannot fight your fate, Niji said, just as Hinata-sama can't fight hers. Her fate is set and there is nothing she can do to change that. Naruto said nothing in response. If Naruto did know he could win that easily, he didn't show it. The blonde just looked at Niji with a calm, calculating look in his eyes. Hinata and Ino recognized the serious look on Naruto's face. Naruto pulled out 4 kunais and 6 shurikens. First he threw a kunai right in front of Niji, making him jump back. Second he threw 2 shurikens, again making Niji dodge. Afterward, timing just right, Naruto threw the remaining 3 kunais and 4 shurikens at Niji, just as he stopped moving from his evasion. Niji saw the flying weapons with Naruto charging at him. Kaiten, Niji cried loudly as he activated his spiraling defense and deflected the weapons and Naruto away from him. When the dust cleared, a winded Niji stood in the middle of a crater, unharmed, although his clothes were a bit singed. Naruto looked at the grinning Hyuga, who was looking back at him with the veins in his eyes more pronounced than before. You're now in my field of divination, Niji announced as he prepared for his next attack. Naruto-kun, Hinata said, worried, knowing fully well what the next attack was. Ino too was worried about how this fight might turn out and hoped that Naruto would somehow think of something. Sakura looked on with a concerned expression while wondering how Naruto was going to get out of that predicament since he can't perform Hinata's Shigohaku Rokugyu Yansho. Run, Naruto, Kiba yelled out, don't let yourself get caught by his attack. Damn it, Naruto, Anko yelled her head, what the hell are you doing? You know he can't beat you, so what exactly are you trying to prove? Everyone watched as Niji wasted no time and charged at Naruto. Hakurokugyu Yansho. Niji shouted as he reached and started striking Naruto's tenketsus. 2 palms. 4 palms. 8 palms. All of Niji's hits were making contact. 16 palms. More of the Hyuga's attacks were hitting their targets as the audience just looked on in shock at the event playing before them. Tsunade said nothing as she watched the scene transpiring in front of her. 32 palms. More and more strikes were being made with cutting-edge precision. 64 palms. Boom! A large and loud explosion occurred the moment Niji made his 64th hit on Naruto, who had suddenly exploded on him. Everyone in the audience looked at the shocking turn of events that just happened out of nowhere. What the fuck? Someone in the audience shouted as Niji's heavily battered and wounded body came flying speedily from out of the smoke and flames before bouncing hard and skidding harshly across the arena, adding more to his brute injuries, scrapes and burns. Niji was now sliding backwards across the ground on his chest before coming to a complete stop. All in the audience looked on to see the horrid condition Niji was now in. The young Hyuga was completely covered, injuries all over from head to toe. His clothes suffered from heavy damage, tears, and burns. His body had burns, scrapes, bruises, and he was bleeding in many places with his ruined clothes covered in his blood. Niji coughed blood out of his mouth painfully, almost as though he was choking on it. He was in a great amount of pain and in immense need of medical attention. Naizen, Hinata said worriedly while Kiba had his mouth wide open from witnessing what just happened. Ino was wondering what happened to Nato after seeing the explosion occur. Tenten had a very worried look on her face, hoping that this wasn't going to be Niji's end. Guy and Lee looked on at this while wondering how things suddenly turned out the way it did. The remaining genins and jounins were looking in disbelief that what just happened. Anko had a smile on her face after seeing what just unfolded in front of everyone. You never fail to amaze me, Yondaime Hokage, Anko thought admirably. Niji looked forward and saw the same kunao from a distance that was thrown at him earlier. A moment later, the kunao puffed into a cloud of smoke. After a brief moment, the smoke cleared to reveal to Niji and the audience. Naruto-sama, Niji said weakly as the blonde stood in front of him from a distance dressed in the exact same clothes he was wearing when he entered the stadium. The weakened Hyuga wanted to move, but his body was too busted up and he felt numb in some places. In all, he was now completely at Naruto's mercy and completely defenseless. Hayashi and Hanabi were completely caught off guard by the deadly twist Naruto pulled off. Hanabi was utterly dumbfounded at what she just saw. First her older sister developed a jutsu to counter the hacker Rokugyo, and now her sister's love interest created a fatal strategy that could effectively turn their prized jutsu against them. Hayashi, after seeing firsthand what Naruto is capable of doing with Yondaime's influence, was now wary of the cage-level shinobi. You gave a lot of talk about fate and how I was destined to lose to you, Naruto spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. I practically threw myself to you and placed myself into your hands in the form of kunao before you cast me away to the side. Tell me, were my actions the result of fate, free will, or a planned strategy to throw your judgment off? After all, my clone reaching into the insides of his trench coat was more than enough to alert anyone to the obvious fact that he intends to pull and possibly throw something, am I right? And you're the proclaimed Hyuga prodigy. I mean, I should know better than to trying something as lame as reaching for a kunao in my coat in front of you. Niji couldn't respond as he saw the logic in Naruto's words. Naruto continued, what you were fighting and talking to was an exploding clone I created. I had to use a large amount of chakra in order to make it last long enough and endure your blows. I rigged my clone to respond to your hacker Rokugyo and set it to detonate on you on your 64th palm strike. The Hyuga looked at the blonde with widened eyes. You look surprised, Naruto said. What? Didn't think for a moment that my time at the Hyuga compound and sparring with Hina-chan wouldn't teach me things about the way you Hyugas fight? Added with what I learned about your style of fighting with Hina-chan during the preliminaries, I took all of what I learned and came up with methods in beating you and several other Hyugas. But with you I had something else in mind, especially after seeing what you did to Hina-chan during the preliminaries. Niji just looked at Naruto as the blonde continued, when I saw you use your hacker Rokugyo on her, I saw that you were out for blood, namely hers. Even when she wasn't able to continue the match, you still wasn't satisfied and attempted to end her life in front of me, truly a most foolish action. It was only 3 days ago when I thought up of a way to cause that jutsu, one of the very jutsus the Hyugas pride themselves on, to become your own undoing. Neither Niji nor the audience could believe what they were hearing. Just like with Tenten's battle with Naruto, the blonde resorted to basic B-ranked Jounin level jutsu, henge, and a well-thought-out strategy to bring about his victory in the most effective way possible. And just like with Tenten, he cunningly and lethally used their own specialties against them. Well, Niji sneered between his coughs, what are you waiting for? Naruto mumbled. Go on, Niji spat, do it. Isn't this the part where you cripple me for life, like you said you were going to do to me, for what I did to Hinata-sama during the preliminaries? Here's your chance. So do it, and be done with it. Tsunade, Shizuan, Haku, and the genins and jounins who were present when Naruto announced that threat now waited to see what Naruto was going to do in carrying out that threat. Kiba, Tenten, Lee, and Sai were now hearing this for the first time. Guy, Tenten and Lee looked on to see if Naruto was going to go through with what he said, knowing that there was nothing they could do to stop it. Hinata was told about Naruto's threat to Niji by Kurane and Ino several days after her release from the hospital. Now that she was seeing the scene playing out in front of her and everyone else, she hoped that Naruto makes the best judgment. Very well then, the blonde replied as he walked and made his way over to Niji as he reached and unclipped the small red strap that held his trench coat partly close together over his upper chest near the collar. While walking and grabbing his coat, Naruto removed and cast it to the side before going through a series of complex hand seals and Shozen Jutsu, mystical palm technique, Naruto said as he crossed his arms in front of him in the form of an X. His arms from his elbows to his fingers started flaring with chakra. This jutsu is a multi-purpose medical technique used by medic nins to heal wounds and perform surgery. For the former, the user concentrates chakra to their hand and applies it to a wound, speeding up cell regeneration. For the latter, the user focuses their chakra into a blade to make cuts where necessary. Because it's done with chakra, the user doesn't need to cut through their target's skin to reach muscles and organs. For this to be applied effectively in healing, a large amount of chakra is required. Using it to cut seems to be less chakra intensive. This cutting aspect of this jutsu can also be used in combat, though it requires incredible precision on the user's part to be effective. Hyuga Niji, Naruto said coldly as he now stood in front of him. As the elite genin, I made a declaration to irreversibly end your shinobi career by crippling you in the most effective way possible for what you've done and intended on doing to the Hyuga heiress, who also happens to be one of my closest friends. Everyone now saw Naruto focused his chakra into blades while preparing to make the cuts where necessary on Niji's body. This is a judgment you've brought upon yourself, Naruto replied with narrow eyes. He's actually going to go through with it, Asuma said as he, Kurane and all the others looked on at the event about to take place. It was no secret among them that Naruto was not only the elite genin, but he was also a medic nin protege of Tsunade and also under the training of Shizen. Naruto-kun, Hinata said lowly and sadly as tears started building up in her eyes and falling down her face as her head lowered. Tsunade, Shizen, and Haku, respective medic nins, now watched and waited to see what was Naruto's next move. Naruto moved in to do what he was now going to do. Niji closed his eyes and waited for the final blows to occur, but nothing happened. A few moments later, Niji opened his eyes to see Naruto's glowing mystic hands in his face before the mystic glow vanished completely. The Hyuga looked at Naruto questionably as he pulled his hands away from Niji before turning and walking off to get his trench coat. Picking it up, he placed his coat back on and returned back to Niji. As Konoha's second flash, Naruto added, I nullify that threat made to you. Niji blinked at this, not knowing how to reply to that gesture. Naruto-kun, Hinata said happily as she smiled brightly at what she saw Naruto do as she wiped away her tears. Naruto knelt down on his right knee while he rested his left arm on his left leg. Over the years, Niji, Naruto went on, I saw nothing but your malice and cruelty to Hina-chan, the very person who wanted nothing but your friendship. Seeing the way you continuously treated Hina-chan birthed into my heart resentment and disapproval of you. You have no idea how many times I wanted to put you in the emergency ward of the hospital and the number of times Hayashi-san and Hina-chan had to intervene and calm my anger in your behalf. The main house members, the very people you came to despise, were the very ones protecting you from my wrath, and for someone with a bloodline that can see through virtually anything, you sure were blind to have not acknowledged that reality. Again Niji couldn't believe the revelations coming forth from Naruto's mouth. When I saw what you did and was going to do to Hina-chan during the preliminaries, I said in my heart that was the last straw, Naruto continued. I wanted nothing but vengeance and to see you hurt, broken, and humiliated to the highest level, and I spent days thinking about how I was going to go about it while leaving no room for anyone to question the fact that someone as haughty and harsh as yourself had it coming to you. But something happened 3 days before today's event. While I was on my way to one of the training grounds, I ran into Hina-chan at the training ground and we got into a conversation that eventually turned into a conversation about my future battle with you. Before she left, Hina-chan asked me to swear a promise to her. Niji said nothing as he waited to hear his answer. She wanted me to give her my sworn word that I'll help her change the Hyugas after I become Hokage. Niji just stayed quiet. She told me, Nato continued, that the feud between the main and cadet branch houses have been going on for many years, all because of their bloodline limit. She also told me that it breaks her heart to see her family members at each other's throats and placing clan members like you into forced servitude. Save your breath, Niji scoffed between his painful coughs, I don't need her pity or yours for that matter. And I don't need help from that spoiled little main house symbol of weakness. It's arrogance and behavior like that from so-called geniuses like yourself that truly disgust me, Naruto replied harshly, such traits are self-destructive and have led many to their own undoing. Hina-chan is neither spoiled, weak or any other demeaning name you've ever called her under the sun, which is more than what I can say about you. Niji gave Naruto no reply as the blonde shinobi continued. She told me that one of her greatest ambitions is to stop the feud and restore unity in her clan while finding a way to abolish the birdcage seal and develop a new system that would benefit everyone in both the main and cadet branch house, including you. Niji couldn't believe what he was hearing for the first time. She didn't make me swear not to cripple you in any way, Naruto went on, and whether or not she knew I was planning on doing so to you she didn't say. However, she told me that whatever I was planning on doing to you, she trusted my actions. She left me at the training ground with a lot to think about that day and with a lot of self-evaluations I had to do. Today's earlier conversation was required in order to piece together everything I needed to know. What happened to your father up to his death was most unfortunate. But instead of finding constructive ways of dealing with it, you took a coward's way out and blamed everything on fate and took out your anger and hate on Hina-chan, who had no control over the situation concerning what happened to your father after the failed kidnapping. You even went as far as to use the preliminaries as an excuse to lash out your murderous intent on her, actions which I found unacceptable and unfitting for anyone seeking to become a Chiryunin. Niji was lost for words as Naruto continued, yet in spite of the wrongs you've done to her Niji, Hina-chan found it in her heart to forgive you, seeking to not only improve herself but also to improve the relationship between both houses. After I gave it careful consideration, I realized that my crippling you would have in effect made her goals of mending the ties between the main and cadet branch houses even harder for her to achieve, since my actions against you would have been made in her name. Great Hokages listen to the voice of their people and place the needs of the people ahead of their own interests. I desire and seek to become a great Hokage, and by listening to Hina-chan after asking me to help her mend the ties between the two families, Hina-chan in effect saved me from making a terrible mistake I would have regretted for the rest of my life. Hokages and the people of this village listen to and benefit from each other in order to accomplish many things, something Hina-chan reminded me of that day whether she knew it or not. There a period of silence, no one said anything as they looked on at the event unfolding. Niji wasn't able to hold back the feelings of guilt and shame for his actions against Hinata over the years. Moment later. I'm sorry, Niji apologized sincerely. I'm not the one for you to either apologize to or make atonements to, Naruto said, however your apology is a start in repairing your relationship with Hina-chan and helping her fulfill her goals. I will tell you this though, since you've apologized for your actions with no trace of falsity in your voice and demeanor, as of today my resentment and disapproval of you has ended. Hinata was blushing crimson through most of Naruto's speech and was doing all she could to keep from fainting. Ino looked at Naruto in amazement. She, like so many who were watching and listening, saw how the blonde shinobi demonstrated a sense of maturity, justice, insight, and wisdom far beyond his years. Once again, Ino learned more unique traits about the Naruto and was finding herself being more attracted to him. Many in the audience looked at Naruto with admiration and deep respects. The Jounins present acknowledged that he demonstrated abilities far past those of a standard Chiryunin. Guy and Lee were shouting enthusiastic praises and admiration of Naruto's youthful flames and spirit of a truth ninja, much to the annoyance of those around them. Tenten looked at Naruto with amazement and admiration. Like all the others, she thought that Naruto was truly going to go through with his threat. But upon seeing why he decided not to in spite of Niji's wrongdoings, the weapon-using Kunoichi developed a higher level of respect for blonde shinobi, especially seeing how he managed to help Niji begin his path of changing himself and viewpoints of life and everyone around him. That Naruto is really quite a guy, Tenten thought with a sincere smile on her face. Now I see why Hinata-nichan likes Naruto-sama so much, Hanabi thought. Naruto-sama is truly a unique kind of guy, thought he's still a bit of a weirdo, but a really cute weirdo. Tsunade looked at her son with a smile of approval. Whether or not Naruto was going to actually cripple Niji, however, Tsunade wasn't planning on interfering, acknowledging that this was his fight and that his actions were what he himself was going to have to live with, regardless of the consequences. Shizune looked at her Otauto, kid brother, with a bright smile on her face. She was truly happy that Naruto didn't resort to using medic jutsus that she and Tsunade taught him for his own vengeance and anger against a Konoha genin, an act that would have disappointed both her and Tsunade greatly. Haku too smiled brightly at the young blonde ninja after watching his actions. As she knew him for, Naruto was willing to place the interests of his precious people ahead of his own desires, a characteristic she truly admired and respected. Elsewhere in the audience, a young brown-haired girl was staring at Naruto. She knew that Naruto was holding back on Neji the entire time and that he could have ended the fight long before it even started. As she sat there, she thought about all the things that Neji said and what Naruto told him before and after he defeated him. While doing so, she took another look at Naruto again before unconsciously placing her right hand over her neck covered with her turtleneck. This match is over. Winner, Senju Uzumaki Naruto, Genma announced. Everyone in the audience gave a loud applause and cheers while some were shouting Naruto's name. Naruto looked back at the crowd and smiled toothily at them. Sakura though was looking at Naruto with a look that questioned her own abilities in contrast with his. She found herself envious of Naruto's growing progression. Genma turned to Neji and said, "Even a captured bird, if it's clever enough, will try to open the cage with its beak, never giving up its desire to fly freely in the sky. This time, you've lost." Hayashi watched as a medic team arrived on the arena floor and carried Neji off on a stretcher. Hayashi got up from his seat to follow after Neji, leaving Hanabi by herself in the audience. Naruto made his way back to the stands where the other contestants were. After receiving their congratulations, he went over to the wall and leaned up against it with his legs crossed as he folded his arms over his chest and rested his head down and closed his eyes. The other genins chose not to bother him as they turned their attention back to the arena floor. While in the recovery room, Hayashi dismissed the medic nins from the room before explaining to Neji what really happened to Hisashi and the scroll that his father left from him. Hisashi volunteered to be killed instead of Hayashi, thus saving his life. Hayashi, Neji learned, for his part was absolutely opposed to the idea of his brother taking his place and leaving his young son alone, but before he could prevent his brother from doing so, Hisashi disabled him in one blow. Hisashi told his brother that he was not doing it to serve the main house, but because they were brothers and doing so was his way of going against his fate and to make a decision about his own destiny altogether. Hayashi decided not to tell Neji that his father volunteered to die until he felt that Neji would be mentally ready to accept this over the much more comfortable belief that the main house was responsible for his death. This moment came after Neji's defeat to Senju Uzumaki Naruto. Hayashi got on his knees and bowed to Neji as he apologized as his uncle and Hisashi's older brother for what happened to Hisashi. This was when Neji completely rejected his belief in fate and decided to do what he could to rectify his mistakes and remedy the estranged relationship between himself and the main house members, most particularly with Hinata. Meanwhile, Jiraiya was done taking care of the Suna and Oto ninjas where he was at with little problems while the other Konoha shinobis did their parts in battling the invaders. While taking a small break, the Toad Sunin thought back to what happened a few hours earlier. Flashback, 4 hours ago. Jiraiya was in his apartment gathering all of his essential supplies, scrolls, and weapons for the coming battle against the invasion. When he was finished, he made his way over to the drawer where a framed group picture of him, Tsunade, Sandaime, Shizoan, Kakashi, Anko and Naruto was sitting. Smiling at the picture, he picked it up to look at the picture that was taken only a week ago. Everyone in the picture looked happy and sure of a bright future. Jiraiya was about to place the picture back on top of the drawer when the glass frame of the picture suddenly cracked in several places. This served to unnerve the white-haired Sunin, as though he was given a bad omen. Present time. I'm hoping that I'm dead wrong, Jiraiya thought, but somehow I sense that our victory will not come without a price. Check the description for the links to the author.